Agenda item 63.
Another day in paradise.
Okay. Time certain 1 p.m. Hearing and discussion for possible action regarding complaint for disciplinary action against RTB Inc., DBA 512, Rodney Purdue and Bruce Purdue and Tracy Farley, whose place of business is located at 512 Fremont Street, Las Vegas, Clark County, Nevada 89101, as holders of Tavern Limited License Number L65-00001-P64-00191 and nightclub license G64-05236 for violations, Las Vegas Municipal Code, Ward 3, Councilwoman Diaz.
Good morning, Your Honor. John Curtis and Mary McElhone for the City of Las Vegas.
Clyde DeWitt for the respondents.
Mr. Wood?
Your Honor, we are prepared to go forward right now. We have witnesses ready to call. I'd like to make a short opening statement. I believe my opposing counsel wishes to make a short opening statement as well. Is that correct, Mr. DeWitt?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
If I may proceed at this point.
Please.
Your Honor, the city does not bring these actions to revoke business licenses lightly. There generally has to be a pattern of behavior that shows that the privileges that are accorded and afforded business people have been violated over a length of time before we seek to revoke the license. Unfortunately, the operation of the 512 nightclub down on East Fremont Street over the past 2 years has shown a pattern of violence, code violations, duplicity on behalf of the ownership, a drive-by shooting, police officers being forced to separate customers on a regular basis, police officers being struck, patrons being left in the street for unconscious, this going back 2 years, almost since the inception of the license. Because of this pattern, we've brought this complaint. We have both Deputy Business Licensing Director Mary McElhone here to testify, as well as multiple officers from Metro Police Department who can itemize the chronology of violence which has brought us to this place right now. Unfortunately, it's the city's position at this point that this is simply the wrong business in the wrong place at the wrong time, and their license needs to be revoked. Before we begin with evidence, I've given my opposing counsel the courtesy of stating he can speak now before we commence with the evidence, if it pleases the council.
Thank you very much, and welcome, and please, if you would,
Thank you, Your
state
Honor.
your name clearly again for the record.
Also, for the record, I have tendered to the clerk an answer, responsive pleading, and she has it in her hand there, and I sent courtesy copies to the council yesterday evening. And I'm going to ask, at least as far as my half of the case is concerned, that the council put the matter in abeyance. I see they have a lot of witnesses here, and I don't want the witnesses to have to come back and all that. But until yesterday morning, we thought the club was sold. And so I did not prepare for a hearing, because if the club was sold, that would be that. And so yesterday I started scrambling around preparing for a hearing. I still have one witness I haven't even been able to get a hold of, much less prepare. And so what I would like is to have the matter held in abeyance after the city puts on their witnesses, if the city would prefer to do it that way. I would point out that there was a dramatic change in the business in May. There was a 10-day suspension, emergency type suspension imposed. During the period of that suspension, the club did the following: added metal detectors, added patron scanners, facial recognition technology, and so forth, third-party security officers, changed the music format, changed the name of the club, repainted the front of it from red to black, and started working on trying to initiate a restaurant concept that would replace half of the club. since then, of the incidents of the type that my opposing counsel is talking about, there haven't been any of those, at least that we know about. And for that reason, I don't think the city would be any worse for wear if my half of the case, at least, was continued to a subsequent session. Even the first one in February, the second one would be better, but the first one would be better than trying to do it today.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Curtis.
At this time, we'll proceed. I will ask Mary McElhone to give the city's presentation, followed by testimony from the Metropolitan Police Department witnesses that are present. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. For the record, Mary McElhone, Deputy Planning Director for the City of Las Vegas. So 512 received its initial tavern limited license and nightclub licenses on August 25th, 2016. It operated originally under the name of Red and had a name change to 512 on June 3rd, 2019. During the course of the last 3 years, there have been a pattern of violent acts and noncompliance issues at this location. Most of the concerns involve the security operations of the business, where 512 failed to provide adequate security, or the security staff acted in a manner to place the general public at risk. The disciplinary complaint documents several violent incidents reported by the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department involving security and the operations of 512. There are 3 incidences in particular where the patrons of the club actually went to a Metropolitan Police substation and filed police reports stating that they were assaulted and battered by 512 security. These incidents took place on and around July 8, 2017, July 19, 2018, and August 23, 2018. One witness, or victim, was also later diagnosed with an open fracture of his mandible. On December 23, 2017, a security guard from Evil Pie, a business located next door, was shot 4 times with a firearm. Per witnesses, there was a fight which occurred inside 512 between suspects and the 512 security staff. The suspects were kicked out of 512, but returned later in a vehicle shooting the security guard at Evil Pie. Evil Pie is located again right next door to 512. It is believed that the suspects mistook the Evil Pie security guard for 512 security. Metro will provide additional details about this later on. In the last 2 years, there have been 2 occasions where Metro executed emergency closure orders to close the club due to public safety concerns. The first incident happened May 5th, 2018 at 3:30 a.m. in the morning. Metro conducted emergency closure of 512 for public safety concerns when a large fight broke out when 512 failed to control its access line into the nightclub due to public safety. Prior to the night of the incident, 512 had received at least 9 warnings and several violations about controlling their patron line over the previous year. And on that particular evening, 512 again had line control issues, and at 12:45 a.m. in the morning, Metro had 6 officers close off the line due to public safety issues when patrons had to step off the sidewalk and into the traffic to get around the entrance. Also, the entrance to a neighboring business was blocked. The line was later reopened, and over the course of the next 2 hours, our business licensing officers who happened to be out there that evening informed the business approximately 8 times that the line was getting out of control again. At 8:30 a.m., a large fight broke out, and Metro Special Investigations Section, SIS, responded and had to order an emergency closure of the business for public safety. The incident could have been avoided had 512 the proper security and procedures to control the line as required by the Las Vegas Municipal Code. The second emergency closure took place a year later, in May of 2019, because of 2 incidences that had actually occurred 5 days apart. On May 12, 2019, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department's Fusion Watch cameras identified that a black male was lying on the ground in front of the 512 nightclub. A later review of surveillance footage disclosed that the male was assaulted, punched, and knocked unconscious by a security staff member of 512. No aid was rendered nor 911 called by staff. The man remained unconscious for 13 minutes while on the ground. Additionally, staff members of 512 were uncooperative when questioned, and one employee denied witnessing the battery, even when it was clear on the surveillance tape that he did actually witness it. On May 17, 2019, just 5 days later, a neighboring business called Metro reporting a fight, which was later confirmed to be between 512 security and patrons. 3 patrons were being ejected from the club due to them wearing hats, despite them being let in with those hats. And individual fights then broke out with security in the front of 512. The 3 patrons regroup. However, 1 patron walks back for an unknown reason with his hands held up in a passive fashion, and one of the security officers sucker punches him, knocking him out. Metro's SIS performed emergency closure at this time, since this was the second incident where security used excessive force in less than 1 week. Later on in the hearing, Metro will also provide additional details on these 2 events. The Department of Planning has had multiple high-level meetings, January 18, 2018, May 8, 2018, April 4, 2019, May 22, 2019, with Rodney and Bruce Perdue, who are the owners of the club, to discuss the concerns over security practices and patron safety. These discussions also included concerns about hiring security personnel with gang affiliations from the outlaw motorcycle gang, the Chosen Few. Undercover detectives were also able to get concealed weapons into the nightclub on 2 separate occasions in 2019. And at the meeting, after the second closure on May 22, 2019, the severity of the issues were discussed, including the potential for a disciplinary complaint. Rob Perdue stated that he would make changes to the club by rebranding. This would include renaming the club, implementing a dress code, hiring state licensed security, and changing the music genre. A new security plan was ultimately approved and in place on July 2, 2019, which did include state licensed security. And by state licensed security, we mean a company that is independently licensed by the state's Nevada State Private Investigators Licensing Board. The owners and employees must complete a background check, and these companies also carry a City of Las Vegas business license to do work in the city. However, using state licensed security became an issue. Initially, a state licensed company called Invictus was hired, but the contract ended in just a few weeks, and then another state licensed company called Bulwarks was hired. On August 13, 2019, this summer, Kenny Hubner, who is the owner of Bulwarks, who is providing the service, copied Metro on an email to Rod Perdue, the owner, notifying him of his intent to end his state licensed security contract. 2 days later, on August 15th, our business license officer speaks to Mr. Perdue regarding the reports that they are ending their contract with Bulwarks to provide security. Mr. Perdue, in this phone conversation, states that Bulwarks insurance provider is requiring a much higher premium, so they are going to provide nightclub security. If they're going to provide it, they're going to look at some other options, which might include hiring Bulwarks employees directly under them. Our license officer reminded Mr. Perdue that they had previously agreed on May 22nd that the expectation was that security would be provided by a state licensed security company. Mr. Perdue at that time said that he did not recall that. On August 23rd, a week later, Mr. Perdue again spoke to our license officer. He said that he was still working with Bulwarks through the end of September and would probably hire them directly. Mr. Perdue said he did not think he was required to have state licensed security. Mr. Perdue was again advised that having a state licensed security company was one of the expectations. He said he did not recall that. Our license officer advised Mr. Perdue and reminded him that he had to submit a security plan in order for business license review. On September 12th, 3 weeks later, Sergeant Beth Schmidt emailed myself, Mary McElhone, and in the email, she asked me, Downtown Area Command just had our meeting with FEED, which is Fremont East District Coalition. 512's key employee told us at the end of September, 512 would sever their ties with Bulwark Security. He said 512 has now taken the security back in-house. After the meeting, Sergeant Schmidt called Kenny, the owner of Bulwarks, and Kenny stated that Bulwarks severed their ties with 512 was actually effective August 25th, 3 weeks earlier, and that 512 took the security in-house after that. And was the city aware that Rod had been staffing and running security in-house since August 25th? The next day, on September 3rd, our licensed officers went out, conducted an on-site inspection, verified that Bulwarks is no longer providing security. 512, as a result of this, received a $500 fine for violating conditions on their license, which states that they must operate in accordance with their submitted security plan. This plan had to be approved by the director, and all updates to this plan must be approved prior to the implementation. On October 17th, 2017, Business Licensing had a big meeting with Mr. Perdue. He brought in a security plan which no longer had a state licensed company providing. In the meeting, he led myself and others in the meeting to believe that he had an arrangement with Kenny from Bulwarks, whether it was verbal or contractual. He stated that he was hiring off-duty Bulwarks employees that the owner, Kenny Hubner, was providing. Mr. Perdue stated he did not want to hire another state licensed company. I told Mr. Perdue at that time that we would take all the information under advisement and get back to him. And October 22nd, a few days later, I spoke to Kenny Hubner from Bulwarks, and he told me he was not providing off-duty security officers for Mr. Perdue, and that he no longer had a contract with him, whether verbal, written, or otherwise, and that if his employees were working off-duty for 512, he is not involved in that arrangement. Mr. Perdue was then advised that we needed, and our expectation was that he have a state licensed security plan. Once 512 learned that they had been placed on the City Council agenda, they did submit a security plan that includes state licensed security, and that security plan was approved on December 3rd. So over the last 7 months, they have operated on and off with state licensed security. There have been compliance issues with each of the 4 on-site inspections that have taken place. The employee list has not always been up to date, as well as missing alcohol awareness cards, and we've had issues, what we just discussed, with the security plan that ultimately resulted in a $500 fine. I'm now going to turn this over to our Metropolitan Police Department. I'm going to just introduce to you Sergeant Beth Schmidt, who's going to provide additional details. Thank you.
May I examine?
Any problem to go ahead with
No,
the
he wants-
response?
no,
Please
go ahead,
do
Counsel.
so, Mr. Wood.
Okay, you're not.
Thank you.
Mary.
Oh, no.
Yeah, just have a seat, it'll be a couple more.
Okay.
Just a few questions. Does the business now have an improved security plan in place?
Yes, the business has an improved security plan as of December 3rd, 2019.
You don't have any reason to believe that they're violating it, do you?
No, I have no reason to believe that they are violating it.
So all the security things are straightened out since you approved, they submitted this on November 22nd of 2019, and you approved it, or your department approved it, on December 3rd, 2019.
That is correct. At this point in time, we don't believe we have any outstanding violations with the security plan.
Okay. That's the only thing I have right now.
Thank you. Thank you. Aye.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and councilmen and women. For the record, my name is Sergeant Beth Schmidt, S-C-H-M-I-D-T. What I'm here to do today is to talk to you about, Metro is going to speak, there are going to be 3 of us that will speak. Myself as a sergeant, Officer Gill as community policing officer, and Detective Hurtado, who is with Special Business Licensing. What we're going to do is we're going to show you some videos first, and what I want you to keep in mind while we show you these videos is that security's role at a nightclub, when they have a problem patron, they have every right to remove those patrons. And we encourage that. And we encourage them to call us when they have problems. And what we have seen is a pattern of behavior where when they remove someone from the club, they pursue them past the boundaries of the club, they chase them into the street, and they do a good old-fashioned beatdown. That is not acceptable. We have had people that have been seriously injured. We have had a result, which I will talk about with the Evil Pie shooting, which because of the way that Red Security treated patrons that they kicked out, those patrons came back and they were so angry, it's not okay, but they were so angry they came back and committed attempt murder by shooting a security guard next door. So I want you to keep that in mind. This behavior of security pursuing people out of a club and then beating them and punching them and repeatedly attacking them, that is not typical in the downtown area command. It is not something we see on Fremont East. And that's why we bring this to your attention. I'm going to turn this over now to Officer Cody Gill. He's going to show you some very compelling videos, and he's going to narrate those for you.
Thank you.
For the record, I'm Officer Cody Gill. I work in Downtown Area Command for the Community Policing Division. The first video set that I'm going to show you is going to be an event that took place on May 12th. So video 1, I'm going to let it play through, and then I'm going to show it again while I narrate it. So if you can play video 1 for me.
2019.
2019. Okay, so this video takes place outside of Red, located at 512 Fremont Street. The security guards in the video are going to be wearing orange shirts with black pants. Can we just start it from the beginning? So I'm going to give you a little background. Pause it, please. In this video, you're going to see an irate male. You can see him in the video. He's wearing a white shirt with blue jeans and black sneakers. He is going to be arguing with security, and you're going to see one of Red's security guards come out of bounds onto the public sidewalk around the barrier and engage the victim in this case, where he knocks him out. So if we can play the video. You could see he is out of bounds and he engages the victim. I'll just pause it real quick. He knocks him out and he proceeds back into the club. You can see a larger male security guard in the back with his hand raised. He has a black baseball cap backwards and an orange shirt. He's acknowledging what happened. He seems to be frustrated with that security guard. And if you play it just a little further, you can pause it. He addresses the security guard who struck the male. At this time, this is going to be the same security guard who was outside when Metro arrives on scene, and he completely denies seeing it. He specifically states to officers, "I wasn't out here and I didn't touch him." That just shows the uncooperativeness. At this time, I'd also like to show the general manager is right by the doors in the back. He is a white male. He's dressed all in black and he has a black baseball cap. He is supposed to be responsible for all the employees. When we originally arrive on scene, he states he didn't know what happened. He is the same manager who allows the suspect in this battery to leave out the back door prior to Metro arriving. We conducted a records check with our dispatch, and no one from Red calls 911 or medical. No aid is rendered to this victim, and he is unconscious for approximately 13 minutes until medical arrives.
And this was picked up by our crime cameras. That is how we found out that this happened, that no one called us. That's part of the agreement. That's part of the security plan. You have to let us know when things happen. 13 minutes this man lay. We cut the video down. 13 minutes. No aid was rendered until our cameras picked this up and officers arrived.
Now you continue playing the video. You can see all the security and employees retreat back into the club like nothing happened, and they're just concerned with their club and no actions of their employees. So we can play the next video.
Let me ask you a question. Do you know who did call the ambulance? How did the EMTs get there?
Metro Fusion Watch cameras were able to observe a male down on the ground, and they were the ones who initiated officers to the scene.
So we have officers and sergeants and lieutenants that sit up at headquarters and watch cameras, but those cameras are valley-wide, so they're not watching every camera constantly, and it was just as they were scanning through, they realized that they didn't know what had happened. They saw someone that was out cold on the sidewalk and no one rendering aid. And so our downtown officers responded.
So I'm going to play this clip right now.
So his friends are rendering aid at this point.
So the main part of this video is you can see an employee dressed in black holding a broom. They're more concerned with cleaning the area where the occurrence occurred, and no one is concerned with calling the police, calling for medical, checking on the victim. And in the video, this is approximately 2 minutes later, you can still see the general manager, who's responsible for his employees, in the background, just staring at the victim on the floor.
This is a crime scene. We have seen in this valley where people have gotten knocked out, fallen down to the ground, to the sidewalk, in a club, and have died. This is a crime scene, and they're cleaning it up, and no one's let us know that this has happened.
Yes, and the actions of the security officer are criminal at this point. This is not normal procedure for security. Whenever they have an event, they should escort the victim or rowdy suspect outside and call police, and that's what they failed to do. So can we play the next video, please? I'm going to let this,
Next event.
I'm going to let this play out.
We've now arrived on scene. We're trying to figure out what happened. And part of that is that as more officers, you can see our officers in the yellow trying to deal with this guy's friends, who, it's chaotic. But what we're going to do here shortly is we're trying to figure out, how did this happen? We don't know. All we found is a man, did he fall? Was he knocked out? And so we begin an investigation at that point as we get more people there and we're able to control the crowd.
All right, this clip's going to be over. We're just going to restart it from the beginning. I'm going to give you some background. This is how disorderly the crowd becomes. Officers have to switch their attention from the victim on the ground to other subjects in the area. This is all due to security's actions. The Metro officers in yellow are bike officers. They were the first arriving officers on scene. You can see by the doorway the same security guard I pointed out earlier is still out there and just watching. Can we play the video a little bit? So the suspect in this video is going to be a black male adult with a white shirt, blue jeans, and black and white sneakers. He's wanting to fight with security. Officers are attempting to have him walk away. He continues to disregard commands and attempts to force his way through officers multiple times. He goes around trees. He tries to push his way through. Eventually, one of the officers is going to draw his baton due to the suspect's actions are increasing and escalating. If you can pause it right here. The officer in the middle of the screen standing next to the tree, he has a baton in his right hand. This is all due to the suspect's actions. If we continue to play the video, eventually more officers arrive on the outside of the screen. He continues to walk towards the club. At some point, the same officer with the baton drawn has to, we'll pause it right here. There's also a female involved on the bottom right side. He has to draw his taser to control the situation due to the escalation. Eventually, both of these suspects are taken to custody and arrested. So we can play this video out and switch to the next one, please. The next video I'm going to show you just shows how many resources were required on scene for this particular incident and how it escalated. And as well, you're going to see an employee come out and take a photograph of the victim while he is unconscious. This is going to be video 4, please.
Remember, this went on for 13 minutes before we got here.
So if you pause the video, on the right side of the screen by the patrol cars, officers continue to arrive, as well as a sergeant. This keeps growing, the crowd keeps growing, and we're still waiting on medical to arrive. This is going to conclude the videos we have for May 12th, 2019. We're going to now show some videos from May 17th, 2019. Now, I want you to watch this first video. We're going to show it a few times because there's a lot going on. and I'm going to break it down for everyone. So the next set of videos, they're all going to be from the event only on May 17th. And Red Security in these videos are going to have orange shirts, and as well, some of them are going to be dressed in all black. A large fight breaks out in front of Red with security and patrons. Security is seen going above and beyond their boundary and being extremely heavy-handed. This is not normal procedure for security, and it shows an intent to do harm towards their patrons. For the first part of the video, when we replay it, I'd like you to focus on the middle of the screen. You're going to see a security guard in an orange shirt with a black baseball cap. He can be seen throwing punches at two males. He's going to proceed to engage fighting one of the males and chase him into the middle of Fremont Street, clearly off property, and a clear intent to do harm. Later, we'll show you exactly how far off into the roadway they travel. And in the video, you can clearly see that the patron is attempting to retreat as the security continues to advance and throw punches. So if we play it, I'll pause it. Here you can see he punches two of the patrons. Pause it, please. He just threw the red chair on the left. We're going to focus on that part of the video first. Now he's going to chase the patron into the middle of the road. And
By he, you mean a security?
by security, red security guard. And he continues off screen to the right. Now we want to restart the video. Now I'm going to ask that you focus on the top side of the screen. You will see another security guard with an orange shirt and a black baseball cap backwards. He is seen tackling the male in this video wearing a white shirt and black shorts. He tackles the male to the ground, gets on top of him, and continuously punches him in the face. At the same time, you can see another employee from Red, dressed all in black, a Hispanic male, holding down his legs as the security guard punches him in the face. We're going to play it out. It's going to be on the top side of the screen. You can pause it right here. Behind the male by the red chair, you will see the Hispanic male with glasses. That's a Red employee. You're going to see him holding down the legs of the victim, and you will see one of the security guards punching a male on the ground. And we can play it. Pause it right here. You can see the male on top of the security guard from Red on top of the male. He has a white shirt on and black shorts. And after he's done punching him, he's going to throw him towards the street. I'm going to continue to play the video. All right. Again, very heavy-handed. Now there's a third fight that actually takes place involving another security guard at the same time. This time the security guard is going to be wearing all black clothing. He has a large metal chain around his neck. He's a black male and he is bald. If we can start it from the beginning. This place, if we can pause it, it's going to take place near the garbage cans on the top right side of the screen. You'll see the security guard grab the male, force his head into the trash can, and he's going to pummel the male in the face over and over again. If we can play it out. You can pause it right here. At the garbage can, you're going to see two males. One appears to be a Hispanic male. He's bent over, and the other male behind him is a black male adult. He's wearing all black with black and white sneakers and bald. He has a chain around his neck. Watch that male. Please play the video. Pause it. You can see him forcing the victim's head into the trash can as he continues to punch him over and over again. After he's done punching him, he's going to throw him into a sign near the middle of the screen, the top middle part of the screen. This is no cover charge. Can you play the video out, please? And he's thrown on the floor. And the male runs north on Fremont. I want to switch to video 3 now. It's going to pertain to the same male who was battering that male in the garbage can, hitting him over and over in the face. I'm going to play it out just so you can see, and then I'm going to point out some key factors of concern. So right now he's punching the male. He walks back to the front of the club. Now he's walking up towards the bottom side of the screen. And he takes his necklace off. So we're going to replay this, please. So I want to draw concern. He is a security guard of Red. He takes a large chain off of his neck, and he wraps it around his right fist, which he was just using to punch this other victim. He is seen in another video walking towards the victim in the street, and he is creating a weapon to do substantial harm, and he wants to continue fighting. And he does this by wrapping a metal chain around his right wrist. So if we can play it out, I'm going to pause it so you can see exactly when he does this. As he walks back to the front of the club, you'll see a large chain around his neck. You can see the chain. We'll pause it right here. You can see how thick that chain is. Now, if you can play it, he's going to be going to the bottom right, and he will take the chain off and wrap it around his right wrist. We're going to pause it. You can see him wrapping it around his hand. So now we're going to go to video 4. This video is going to take place moments after our last video, the fight ensued. I'm going to let it play out. Please pay attention to the top middle portion of the screen, and then I'll explain what happened. So in this video, you will observe one of the victims from earlier wearing a white shirt, black shorts, and a red baseball cap. He approaches the club to attempt to talk to somebody while on public sidewalk with his hands raised in the air in a peaceful manner, non-threatening, non-aggressive manner. As he approaches the club, one of Red's security guards comes out and punches him, sucker punches him, knocking him out. He is knocked unconscious, and his friends drag him away. As his friends are dragging him away, Red security is seen following them on the sidewalk, well out of bounds. At no time did Red report this to the police either. This call actually came in from our neighboring business who reported it. So again, they believe that they can take matters into their own hands and be extremely violent. So we're going to play the video, and I'm going to pause it at some key points. He has his hands in the air. Pause it, please. His hands are up in a peaceful manner. His fists are not clenched. He's not in a fighting stance. You can see the Red security guard who just exited through the front doors wearing an orange shirt with a black baseball cap running up to the victim. If you can play it. He is going to punch the male. He punches him. Pause it, please. Or a little bit forward. Pause. You can see he's knocked unconscious on the ground. Now when we play it, you're going to see his body start moving along the sidewalk as his friends dragging him. At this time, I'd like to draw attention to the male in all black. He is the same male with the chain from previously. He's going to be seen taking that chain off again, putting it around his hand to create a weapon in order to do harm to these patrons who are not in their business any longer. Can we play the video, please? He's being dragged away at this time. So the next video I have is going to be video 5. It's good. This is going to be Metro's Fusion watch camera, and this is going to be an angle from farther away from Las Vegas Boulevard. And this camera is going to show the entire event take place. It's going to occur on the left side of the screen. just above the ATM sign, under the red canopy, right over here where the cursor's pointing. If you could pay attention, the fight starts over there, and then you can see how far in the street the security guard from red chases the patron as he attempts to retreat. And you can see the security continue to throw punches. In this video, you will also see the black male in all black with the chain, wrap the chain around his hand, or it appears to wrap something around his hand, and approach that same patron. So if we could play the video, please. So the fight is breaking out right now in front of red. You can see red security and orange chasing the patron in the street. It's right under the martini glass. They're literally fighting in the street.
And this is what I'm talking about. If the goal for security is to remove a problem patron, hey, it's nightclubs, we get it. Fights break out, we get that, we understand that. But to pursue people into the street, to beat them, to put chains around your hand, and to chase them fully out into the street, it's unacceptable. Just get them outside your door and then close the doors to the club and call us. But that's not what's happening. And this is the only club that this is happening at. It's been an ongoing behavior.
All right, we could pause the video.
I believe that's it.
Yep, at this time, that's all for the videos.
As far as video go, council have any questions?
I do. In the first place, this video, what's on the screen right now, what is it? There's no date stamp on it. It's the same day?
Yeah.
It is.
Yes.
So that's 5/17. Now, going back to the first one, the security guard who punched the guy and knocked him out, was he cited or arrested or charged with anything?
He left the scene prior to officers arriving, so he was not cited that night. I don't know if there was a follow-up citation at that time.
And the same thing with the security guards in the second video, at the 17th, were they charged and arrested and prosecuted?
We're going to have Detective Hurtado. She'll come up next and she'll answer those, okay?
And are you aware that all of the security guards involved in both of those videos were fired?
I am not aware.
Okay. And on the 17th, after all this commotion, you emergency closed the place, did you not?
Correct.
Okay. And there was a 10-day closure?
Again, that's going to be Detective Hurtado. We'll answer to those questions since
Okay.
since it was her group that did that.
But as far as you know, that's what happened?
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, I'll defer my questions.
Okay, okay. Any other questions for us on the
No,
videos?
ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep, so I just want to talk a little bit about the Evil Pie shooting that occurred on December 23rd that Ms. McElhorn referenced, and that was December 23rd, 2017. I did respond to that. At that time, I was a graveyard sergeant, and I did respond on the scene to that attempt murder. In Mr. DeWitt's rebuttal, he says that there never was a fight within Red that night. The issue with that one was, we got a call from Red, which is what we want them to do when there's a problem. We're not going to penalize them to call us when there's a problem. They called us and said, hey, there's a guy in the back that's in an employee area. So we came, we showed up. We did not have the elements to charge him with burglary after conferring with Red, and so the agreement was, hey, we're going to issue a citation to this guy for trespassing. So we positively identified him. He had an additional group with him, and that group, it was 6 to 7 people that were there that night. After we trespassed him and he was removed from the business, then security removed the rest of his group. What happened was, despite the rebuttal, there was in fact a fight. There was an old school beatdown of his additional friends. Security beat them so badly that they tore the pants off of one gentleman. Those gentlemen that were evicted from the club and beaten, an hour later, they came back. And you see it on the videos. They come by a couple of times, casing, in 2 cars. They came by, and they unloaded with a firearm. And the person who got hit was an innocent man. He was security at the next door business, because they kind of blend right together. It's the same wall and just kind of blends together. And that gentleman was shot numerous times, and I was one of the first people to arrive in Evil Pie and find him. Now, in the rebuttal, Mr. DeWitt says that there never was a fight. He says that this gentleman we were trespassed told us that he was going to come back and shoot up the place, and that he was, in fact, a passenger in the vehicle that shot. That is categorically not true. That gentleman that we cited was upset. Did he possibly say he was going to shoot up the place? It's possible. I don't pick that up on cameras. I don't pick that up on any of the interviews with him. It's possible he said that. But that gentleman never made contact that night again with his buddies. In fact, that gentleman was extremely cooperative in this attempt murder investigation. And the only way we found him was because we had issued a citation. We went out and found him and talked to him. He wasn't part of this. He separated from his group. So I just want to point that out. It's a pattern of behavior. Kick them out, close the door, call us. Don't kick them out and beat them down to the point that they're so angry they come back seeking retaliation. Anything?
I have nothing further of Sergeant Schmidt. Questions?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
This was just a little over 2 years ago, right?
Correct.
And let's see if I understand you. The person who was cited for trespassing was not a passenger in the car from which the bullets came?
That is correct.
Okay, now could I ask, the last video that was on, the one I had to point out that there was no timestamp, could somebody, I don't know who's working this, but could somebody put that back on again?
Sure, the one from our crime cameras?
Yes.
Sure.
I think.
Which incident?
The one where there were multiple fights going on,
Okay.
and they chase them into the street. We
Yeah.
use this.
Okay, now.
You want this one right here,
Yeah, just
Counsel?
stop it,
All right.
that's fine. Okay, now, Reds,
You just pause it for us, please.
pause it, please. You can see on the video Reds,
The awning.
there's an awning and the whole thing is painted red.
Right above the ATM sign.
And then the pizza place, Easy Pie, I think.
Evil Pie.
Evil.
Evil Pie, so EVEL Pie, is next to it. And what I want to point out is that there's no mistaking one of those places for the other, it would seem to me. Is that a fair statement?
I would say no, that's not. Having worked down there and at night with the crowds, I would say no, that's not. Their intent was to come back and shoot the guys that beat them down, and that wasn't the evil security guard. He just happened to be outside. And because of the flow of everything there, the security from Vanguard, which is just next to it to the east, Red and Evil Pie, look, they work together. They're all on at the same hours, so they move back and forth.
Well, let me just clarify. How many feet apart is the front door to Evil Pie to Red? Is it like 20 feet,
Yeah.
maybe? 30, 20
Yeah.
feet? Okay, so, like, it's not as long as that, as long as the...
That piece of wood, I would agree with you.
Transom right there between us and the council. Okay, thank you.
And why are you sure the person that you cited was not in the vehicle from which the shots came?
Because I've talked to the detective who investigated this case.
And that's what he
Yeah.
said. He said, I wasn't in the car.
We had multiple people in the car. We've interviewed them all. He was not in the car.
Did you ever figure out who fired the shots?
Yes, sir, we did.
And who, and
That's an ongoing investigation, and I'm sorry, I cannot speak to it. I'm not the sergeant over that case.
without disclosing details, which I'd sure like to hear, did they prosecute him for something?
I think
Again-
the answer is not yet.
Not yet, but they're still investigating that case, yeah.
2 years and they haven't prosecuted him yet?
Sir, again, that is not my case, so I can, if you want, I can make a phone call to that detective and get an answer for you.
Excuse me, just real quick. I have a question, Mayor, just sort of point of order. I am confused about the where this is going. Normally, when we have cases in front of us, we deal with the issues in front of us, and you guys seem to be litigating this back and forth, and I'm not sure if this is the purview of this committee to listen to you go back and forth. Not to say that it's not valid. I'm somewhat confused on that. Maybe Mr. Curtis or someone can clarify if this is appropriate for you guys to be doing this.
The licensee does have a right to question witnesses, I mean, under our code. So we cannot deny him that a reasonable amount of questioning, cross-examination, whatever.
Okay.
As long as it has some relevance or pertinence. I mean, the council and the mayor is able to cut off this inquiry, but to ban it altogether would not be a good idea. We need to let him have the opportunity.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
And I'm trying to be brief and to the point.
Okay, I'm going to turn this over now to Detective Hurtado, and she's going to talk a little bit about the pattern of behavior again, the recent calls for service, and the emergency suspensions.
Thank you.
How you doing, everyone? For the record, my name is Detective Hurtado, and I work with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department Special Investigations Section. I've been on the department for 15 years, and I've been with the unit for 3 years. I am proud to say that I am a Las Vegas native, and I take pride in my work, and I grew up in downtown, so I take pride in making the community safe and
Thank you for your service. And what high school?
I went to Votech.
Good, thank you.
So because I grew up in downtown and I actually did all of my patrol time in downtown, I am what is called the downtown liaison with special investigations, and that is how I met downtown COP, and this is how we work together to keep the downtown area safe. And so a little bit of background on what Special Investigations does is we do the investigations and the enforcement on privileged and regulated licenses within the city of Las Vegas and Clark County. Due to the fact that I am the downtown liaison, this is how I became aware of the issues at Red Nightclub, because it is located in the downtown area. Sir, to answer your question on the two incidents, on the incident of May 12th, the reason why there wasn't a suspect arrested for this was because the victim did not want to press charges. The victim was actually uncooperative, and so unfortunately we weren't able to make an arrest because the victim didn't want to press charges. On the second incident, May 17th, the victim was also uncooperative and also didn't want to press charges, but the security guard was arrested for some outstanding warrants.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So I would like to, I'll try to be as quick as I can, but I just want to make some points clear. Sir, you mentioned earlier that there have not been any police problems roughly in the 7.5 months since the new format was introduced in May, correct?
That's our understanding.
Okay, so first of all, I just want to make sure that we don't forget why Red was rebranded to 512, because of these two very extreme and violent incidents, as we all saw on the video. There's no denying. So I just want to make clear that one of the security officers that was identified on the first incident of May 12 was identified as a security guard who actually used to work at the beauty bar right across the way, and he was actually he had some police trouble because he was also using excessive force upon patrons on Fremont East. So I just want to make that clear. There's no secret that all of these security guards know each other. They're very tight-knit, and they all know where they've worked, and it's open to everybody down there that works down there, that these security guards go back and forth, just like Sergeant Schmidt mentioned earlier. So the incident on May 17th, that was brought up to our attention, and, I'm sorry, the incident on May 12th was brought up to our attention, and I was actually called on the incident on May 17th at Red. So we also do what are called emergency suspensions. Special Investigations does that, and we actually suspend the license when we deem a business unsafe for the public. So I was actually the detective that responded that night and did the emergency suspension, because just 5 days earlier, I was aware that security did punch a male unconscious, and he wasn't rendered aid. It was a very similar incident to when I responded that night, and I just want to, again, say that this use of force is unacceptable, and it was determined that for the safety of the public and our community to suspend the nightclub license that night. I also want to share that we did call Mr. Perdue down to the club, and he was hesitant over the phone on coming out because it was so late. Because this license is held to a higher standard, when we call an owner, because we're serving an emergency suspension, there is no question on why or if they should not come out. They need to come out and take responsibility for any actions at their business. Security is obviously held at a higher standard, and they're supposed to protect the public and not become a part of the problem. And like mentioned before, there was no aid rendered to the subject. Police was never called, and medical was never called. And police should have been called on both instances, and because there is a license, a nightclub license, that is part of their security plan, and they need to notify us. I also want to mention that the manager that night did not have a work card, and he was very confused. He was cooperative, but he was very confused because he had just been promoted to manager, and it was very obvious that he had no control over the security at Red that night. There was also some citations of noncompliance issued to the business because the employee list was not updated and he didn't have his work card. And this is not the first time that negligent managers have been employed at this business. I want to just mention just very quick that in January of 2008, I conducted a site check at Red, and I discovered that he didn't have a work card, and he was actually a sex offender that failed to notify the LVMPD, so I arrested him that night.
This is January 2018?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Anything else?
I also want to mention that in the videos, you see that there's patrons and visitors and tourists, and usually when I would patrol the area, there's actually families out there. So we are very fortunate that no innocent bystanders or children got hurt when these chairs were flying around. I've also issued multiple notices of noncompliance to previous managers. And I would also like to state that the reason why the calls for service are down is because Mr. Perdue did hire state licensed security temporarily, and also because our officers have been doing self-initiated calls and have been present in the area. I conducted a search of calls for service from May of 2019 to January 2020, and there was a total recorded number of 42 calls for service at 512 Fremont. And I just want to state that 21...
I'm sorry, excuse me, could you repeat the dates of those 42 calls? Just
Yes.
in general, from what date to what date?
I did a search from May of 2019 to January of 2020.
For the last 7 months, basically.
Yes. And there was a total recorded number of 42 calls for service, but half of the calls, 21 of these calls, were self-initiated calls by LVMPD, us doing enforcement, us doing stops in front of the business where we utilized the address. So half of those calls were all self-initiated. There were 17 calls for service, which were miscellaneous calls, such as homeless or other disturbances. There were 2 battery calls and 2 noted calls for service. So now I'm going back on the fact that the business was rebranded, but a continual pattern of the same violent incidents are still occurring. So one being a fight call on January 4th of 2020 where an LVMPD officer was working overtime at 512 Fremont, was actually punched in the face trying to break up a fight that occurred inside 512 Club. The officer took control of the suspect, which had punched him in the face and handed him over to 512 security as he continued to assist the other officer in the fight. The officer then turned around and saw that the suspect that had punched him earlier was being released by 512 security, despite the officer communicating with security that that was the suspect that was handed over due to being a primary aggressor and hit him in the face, but had to turn around to assist the other officer.
So this was a week ago.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So, the officer saw that the suspect was being released, and the officer and his partner ran towards the suspect and took him into custody with no further incident. And it was revealed that after 512 security had released him, didn't even identify him. The officer sustained 2 minor scratches on his right hand and an abrasion to his right cheek. There was also a domestic violence, which was reported on December 25th. And I'm just going to go through the short details, brief details, is that the victim stated she was inside Club Red on December 22nd, and she stated she was at the club with her boyfriend. She later said that she went up to security to tell security to keep an eye on her boyfriend because he was being physical. The victim's boyfriend then choked her and punched her while inside the club. She said security came and intervened and escorted the male out, and security told her that the police had came and removed the subject from the club. She claimed she was so scared and did not want to talk to the police, so the security officer gave her his information in case she needed a witness. So that day, she actually went home and didn't call the police herself, but she did call on the 25th of January because she did want it documented, and did a police report from a residence. Long story short is a detective contacted the witnessing 512 security guard, and he corroborated that the male was getting physical and was hitting the victim, so the suspect was kicked out of the club. But the report did not state that security actually called the police, and I actually reviewed calls for service at this club, and there were no calls into the LVMPD showing a battery call or disturbance call on or around or near December 22nd of 2019. I also want to mention really quickly that there were undercover operations that we did conduct, and 2 firearms were taken into the business. So we then did a different approach, and we had undercovers go in blatantly with the firearm that could be visible, and security did find that firearm, and a minor was identified, and they were not allowed entry, so we commend the club for that. Let me see. Oh, and I also want to mention that during these UC operations, undercover operations, that officers did notice documented gang members and OMG members of the Chosen Few at this business.
When was that?
So the dates were, I have February 22nd of 2019, we did one operation. March 1st, we conducted a second operation, and a third operation was conducted March 22nd of 2019. We would also like to mention that on April 17, 2019, Mr. Perdue sent 2 of his security officers from Red to speak to myself and Sergeant Melvin, which is my sergeant in Special Investigations. They came to LVMPD headquarters, and they wanted to meet with us. This meeting was documented and recorded on Exhibit 3, page 2. The meeting was with the 2 Red security officers admitting affiliation with the OMG Biker Club, the Chosen Few. They both stated they were fired, but were still working some nights at Red. They stated Mr. Perdue fired them due to their biker affiliation and wanted Special Investigations approval to go back to work. SIS made it very clear that SIS does not determine who Red hires for security and do not give approvals to anyone to work as security. SIS would later learn that they were both rehired at Red because on May 17th we conducted a SIS responded to an incident on Red, and one of the securities that had come to the meeting talked to us and was present. The employee list also reviewed at that time showed that both were on the employee list as security.
Okay. I think, Mr. Curtis, and I'd like to ask Councilwoman Seaman, Diaz. How did I get there? It's all right. You're all the same. So, you're our peeps. Are you comfortable that you have, you feel you have enough information on this? Do we have any comments? First of all, I want to thank you for your loyal service and the fact that you stayed in Las Vegas and that you pursued this career. We're just in such gratitude to all of you. Everybody loves the city and just wants to keep it safe. I'm sure you're included in that as well. So I didn't know if there were any questions, comments before I do turn it over, or if anything, Mr. Curtis, you wanted to add?
I don't think I need to add anything further, Your Honor.
Okay. And Ms. McElhone, anything else you wanted to add here?
Nothing further.
Thank you, our downtown area command. I think we've just come such a long way going back 20 years. It's just very comforting. But we can't have this type of attitude going on anywhere. It's just not safe for our visitors or our residents that come down here, or any of you. And so I'm going to turn it over to Councilwoman and Diaz, and let's hear where you're going.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that the owners of this tavern, license, or establishment want to portray that they've rectified the concerns that we've long had, along with not just our licensing department, but Metro as well. And based on the video that we just saw, the reports from Officer Hurtado, lead investigator in many of these and knows the area very well. Also, just being informed of how disciplinary meetings were held with the business owners, and we said very clearly after the incidents, you need to change your practice. And, one thing is for them to come and say before us today here, everything's been squeaky clean since May, the last 2 violent episodes. But we know this is a nightclub, and these are the things that are coming on our radar. So what other things are transpiring that don't even come to the light of day? And many of these victims, I call them victims because if you're being almost knocked unconscious by security, I'm a victim in that situation. If none of those victims are even holding them accountable, how many more victims are out there that haven't come before us or before law enforcement to tell them that they've been mistreated, that they've been mishandled, that they have not been given just the adequate service that one should receive when you're patronizing any event venue space. So with that, I think that we've been very lenient. I think we've been very patient. I think we've been willing to work and let you know exactly what we want of you, that we wanted state certified security, I think from the get-go, not, oh, I'll do it when I get caught with my hand in the cookie jar, and then now I'm just going to yank them and pull them out and not give it any continuity. I think that's just completely unconscious. You're not thinking about the well-being and the safety of your patrons, and how that then creates mayhem for our law enforcement when they might have to be tending to more calls, and then you're one more on that scene and on that beat. So I think that we've been more than accommodating in the past, but I think that it is time to move to revoke this license, Madam Mayor. That is my motion.
Okay, there's a motion on agenda item, what is it, 63, to revoke, so please vote and please post. A motion carries. Where's what? There are. We're good. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you for coming down on behalf of your client. We appreciate it.
And Madam Mayor, if I may, I want to acknowledge Sergeant Schmidt's service to Downtown Area Command. She recently parted ways to something bigger and better for her, but we sure do appreciate her and all of her efforts to keep downtown safe under her watch.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you saying that, and I'm still staying in the city. I'm going to be in the Northwest Area Command, so.
Right.
And also, I have a constituent who is about to retire after today, I believe, and we have Brian O'Callahan, who served at Metro 22 years, and I want him to please stand up and for us to acknowledge his years of service to Metro as well.
Your Honor, I want to make clear, and maybe we need to present the motion again, the revocation has to be both of the tavern license and the business license.
The nightclub.
The nightclub, I'll let Mary explain it, and make sure the language is, in the motion has to be precise with regard
Right, we
to
just
this.
want to make sure the motion is to revoke both the tavern limited license and also the nightclub license.
And is that what you have, Madam Clerk? No.
Okay.
Okay, so let's restate it. Do we have to, Mr. Dorchak, do we have to pull it back and rescind it and restate it, or can we just?
No, we had a little bit of a technical hiccup anyways. We can go ahead with a clean motion now, a motion to revoke both licenses. That's a business license and what was the other one?
It
Tavern?
would be the tavern limited license and the nightclub license.
So Councilwoman Diaz can simply say, move as stated by me.
Move as stated by our legal attorney.
As of today?
Yes.
Okay.
As of effective, right, Mary?
No. Right now?
Mayor Goodman, the way I understand that it works is what happens is you sign all the items on this agenda that tomorrow on Thursday, and they get it published in the newspaper on Sunday, and that's actually when it officially becomes effective. Not unless you make the determination that we're going to do some sort of emergency orders, but normally that's how we proceed, and we will be submitting a letter to them, and then we will be going out
I
and
would
making sure
like
they're
to
closed.
sign that today.
Right.
I don't want to wait if something should happen to somebody between today and Sunday, but that's, I defer to you.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, if we would like to make that effective today through what would be an emergency order, I believe that we can make that effective today. We've done that before in the past.
I'm fine with that motion.
So it'll be the motion as stated, amended with effective via emergency order
The effective
today.
closure would be as of today.
Right. So if you'll get that to my office, I will sign that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And our officers, thank you so much. It's just very, pardon?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Oh, I thought we voted, and, oh, I need to vote. Everybody has voted now. It does carry. All right, I forgot the second one. Thank you. Thank you for coming down. Appreciate it.
Am I excused?
Yes, thank you very much
Thank you,
for
Your Honor.
coming down. Okay, we are now on to agenda item 70. Recommending committee bills eligible for adoption at this meeting. Bill number 2019-44. Councilman Anthony, would you like the bill read?
Yes, Mayor.
Bill number 2019-44, an ordinance adding to LVMC Chapter 13.04, a new section to authorize the Department of Operations and Maintenance to determine and designate hours of cleaning for public sidewalks and to provide for other related matters.
Move for approval.
There's a motion to approve on agenda item 70. Please vote. Please post. It's not good. Where'd it go? To the bathroom. Hang on, give it a minute. Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to agenda. The motion carries. Move on to agenda item 71, bill number 219-48. Councilman Anthony, would you like the bill read?
Yes, Mayor.
Bill number 2019-48, an ordinance to repeal LVMC Section 19.16.105 pertaining to the repurposing of certain golf courses and open spaces and to provide for other related matters.
House is not handcuffed! House is not handcuffed! House is not...
Excuse me?
House is not handcuffed! 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 House is not handcuffed!
Okay, moving, please read that bill. Agenda item 71.
Sure, just to read it again, Bill number 2019-48, an ordinance to repeal LVMC Section 19.16.105 pertaining to the repurposing of certain golf courses and open spaces and to provide for other related matters.
Okay, and how say you on that?
We don't have recommendation.
There's no, okay, there was no recommendation from recommending, so Councilwoman?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Bill number 2019-48 repeals a relatively new section of the city's municipal code pertaining to the repurposing of certain golf courses and open spaces. This repeal bill, not by accident, is the first proposed ordinance to come before this council that I have sponsored since my election to serve the residents of Ward 2 last June. I say it's not an accident that this bill in particular is the first piece of legislation that bears my name because I ran for this council seat with a clear agenda. I promised to solve problems for the residents of Ward 2, and I committed myself to serving as a pro-growth, business-friendly representative not only to the families and workers of Ward 2, but to every taxpayer and citizen in the city of Las Vegas. As a result, I believe the repeal bill before the council today achieves the goals I campaigned on less than a year ago. My proposed ordinance returns flexibility to this city council by eliminating regulations that, in my view, can burden businesses and applicants, especially small businesses. For instance, our great small businesses and local developers, I believe, look at the list of strict requirements in the current open space ordinance and simply say, it's not worth the effort and uncertainty to submit my development application for a project, whether big or small. Therefore, the current regulatory burdens, in my opinion, deter development and growth not only in my ward but throughout Las Vegas. The flexibility that this repeal bill returns to my 6 colleagues and myself does not mean that applicants such as developers or businesses will be given free rein when it comes to repurposing certain golf courses or open spaces in the city. To the contrary, this bill ensures continued city council involvement in any repurposing project and the exercise of city council discretion when needed in any repurposing project. This flexibility and involvement not only provides sound oversight, but also announces that this city is open for business. Change and growth is welcomed, and we will not be handcuffed by regulations that spur new ideas, bog down entrepreneurs, and can lead to acres of unused and wasted land, especially open land that everyone living around it knows from the start can one day be repurposed for a new use. I also want to address the comments made earlier by Mr. Piccoli. I was very clear while campaigning that I was committed to resolving the issues with Badlands. Voters who went to the polls in Ward 2 knew where I stood on the issue and supported my position to resolve the current situation. I received 40% of the vote in an 8-person race, beating my closest opponent by more than 8%. During that campaign, I spoke with numerous people who want to end endless taxpayer funds spent on litigation. And since taking office, I have had numerous calls and emails from people who support the repeal and replacement of this ordinance with the hope of finding a resolution. So I do believe I am listening to all the residents and doing what I believe is the best interest of Ward 2. And for those reasons, and to continue moving this city forward, I respectfully urge my colleagues to support Bill number 2019-48. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Now, as I promised this morning, those who did not speak this morning in public comment on this agendized item number 71 would have an opportunity. I did mention it would be again limited to 1 minute, and let me read the cards I have, and we'll hear from you all. Henry Baker, and pardon me if I misread your names, Mr. Bradford, Dennis Cronin, Derek Estelle, George Garcia, Rogelio Gonzalez, Kenneth McLinn, whoops, I may have missed somebody here, sorry, Harvey Noyd, Paula Quagliana, Michael Quarcini, Doug Rankin, and Anthony Sago. And what I'm going to ask you to do is just until I call you, but I think first of all, I'd like to hear from our Director of Planning for a report which I asked him to prepare, just facts of what we worked under for the past 30-some years, what is, and just facts. So if you would announce yourself, and then we'll go to these order, and we'll start with Mr. Baker. But again, you cannot give your minute to somebody else this time. I announced that this morning, and so you'll each have a minute when that time comes. Thank you, and good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, members of City Council. Robert Summerfield, Director of Planning for the City of Las Vegas. As requested, and I don't know, Jeff, if we can get the overhead, I was requested to do just a real quick summary of the before state, before the ordinance had been passed, and then what is in the ordinance. As I've mentioned in briefings with members of council, there are nuances to this, but the things that have been heard, I think, at least in our work, the most that the community has asked questions about are the neighborhood meeting provisions, the master studies, and maintenance. And so what you see before you is just a real quick comparison of the prior to the adoption of the ordinance, and this was the second phase ordinance that was adopted in November of not last year anymore, in 2018, as well as what the key elements of the current ordinance that is in place that you're considering for repeal. The neighborhood meeting. So a neighborhood meeting has previously, before the ordinance, was required for general plan amendments, certain modifications, and waiver requests in the town center area if there was a special use permit requirement. Otherwise, neighborhood meetings were not required as a general practice unless requested by a member of the Planning Commission and the City Council. The Planning Commission and City Council do use those whenever they hear, even in advance, not just at the public hearing, of any neighborhood concerns about a proposed development. They will very often use their discretion as hearing bodies to hold the item and allow time for a neighborhood meeting in practice. The other item of question is the master studies. So again, prior to the ordinance, and just like in all other development currently, the master studies were required as a condition of approval and need to be in an approved conceptual state prior to being able to pull permits to do any type of construction related to the proposed project. That was the requirement before. Now, those studies are required to be done prior to application. So before they've officially come to the city and asked for the right to develop whatever their project might be, they would actually have to have all those studies approved by Public Works, even though they don't actually have entitlements to review those studies against necessarily. To be clear, most large developers and large projects will consult with our Public Works Department in advance of submitting for their entitlements anyway. It's just a matter of course. Most of the engineering companies will do that. And then finally, maintenance was one of the other big things that's been a conversation piece. So prior to the ordinance, maintenance of any property is governed by the Las Vegas Municipal Code. Under the ordinance, it got more specific and required a maintenance closure plan that would just identify certain things that a property that did have an open space or was a golf course would do. Again, it's the developer telling the city what they would do to maintain the property and submit that for review and approval. So those are the main things I heard. I'm available for any questions that you have on pre-ordinance, what's in the ordinance, or what the impact of the repeal, if it were to go through, might mean.
And I'd like to ask you, just for point of clarification, prior to the adoption of the current ordinance, you're saying these same study requirements had to be complied with. It just was not up front. It was just as they were going through the process. So if, in fact, the developer did not satisfy all the flood approval requirements, the department would deny the application at some point. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So if you're not, so under Anything that's not deemed a repurposing, you come in, you get your entitlements. As a part of your conditions of approval on those entitlements, if you are going to do development of land, so a site development review, you are required to meet with any number of city departments, mainly Public Works, to get those conceptual studies approved. They have to be an approved, at least conceptually approved or conditionally approved prior to building, issuing any permits for construction on those projects. So there's many checkoffs in the building permit process, and one of those is by the Public Works and Planning and other departments that verify that those studies are in an approved situation and match the plans that have been submitted for those permits.
So to clarify, I come in, I want to develop a property. I put in an application, there's a cost. There's a cost, let's just take flood. I come in, I put in my application to develop a property this is prior to the ordinance and then after the ordinance. I come in with my application to develop a property. At some point, obviously, and sooner is better, I have to absorb the cost of a flood study. The developer?
Correct.
Okay. At which point, why is the cost different? I'm taking the other side here. If under the new ordinance, I have to take the same study, what is the negative side? Do I have to do that prior to where's the difference? Where's the timeline different and cost to me, the developer?
So the cost to you, the developer, is probably the same. The engineer is not going to charge you something different in terms of the time. The cost is going to be potentially carrying costs. So if you're financing that study as a part of the financing package for the project, you may have increased carrying costs because you may have needed to pull that money and spend it on the study in advance of when you might otherwise have planned to do that. Additionally, you're doing it to some degree at risk because if you do not have an entitlement to develop the project that you're proposing, then you've spent all that money on that study, and if the Planning Commission or the City Council do not approve your project, then you have expended those resources and you don't get your money back. The engineers have done their work, and so you will be more at risk in terms of having spent that money without having initiated the entitlement process. The other element that often happens is folks will begin that process maybe after they've met with staff officially, submitted an application, had a neighborhood meeting, got a feel for, having met with their council person or their planning commissioner, and got a feel for the questions and concerns that may have been addressed. So then they feel a certain level of comfort in moving forward with doing those studies. They do not have that in these cases because they will have not submitted an application and begun the formal process yet. They will be doing that pre-application submittal.
Okay. Under the way before the ordinance, after I went through flood and found out I'm not going there, I was not required then to go to the traffic and sewer. I was starting with flood, and I found it prohibitive to my project, and I saw that, and so there was no additional requirement to have traffic sanitation.
Correct.
Correct? Okay,
So,
now
yes.
wait, then going to now, which I don't understand, am I required, coming in under the current ordinance, I am required to do all of those. So I have to absorb all of those costs up front?
Again, there are nuances, so there are some size limitations that go with certain studies, and there's degrees to the studies, again, depending on the size and nature of the project that's being proposed. But similar to what you described, if you are under the ordinance and you find that you do pay for your flood study and you're doing it sequenced, and you pay for your flood study and you find that it's not feasible to get a economically viable engineered solution for your flood issues, then no, you're not going to go and then pay to have your traffic study done because you know you're not going to be able to move forward with the project. Similar to now, if after you've gotten the entitlement, you find that you can't do the flood mitigation because the flood study is just too expensive or cost prohibitive, then you wouldn't go on to your traffic study. If you did want to come forward, though, you would need all of the elements of the traffic study, the flood study, and the sewer drainage
Okay, so
study.
the only advantage of one over the other, it sounds like, is that you're not obligated to pay on all, which you ultimately will do if you're coming in to look at a project.
Right.
And you're going through it and taking it. And the one other question I had, as I recall from all of our discussions over these 3-4 years, there was an element about schooling and how additional density of properties may or may not affect the Clark County School District. Is that just, I know there are other elements, but is that one of the ones that would be on this list?
So one of the things that the applicant in this case, in the case of a repurposing, it calls out in the purpose statement school capacity. But we already, again, under your base code, we already have a requirement. If you meet certain thresholds, you have to provide what's called a project of regional significance, or a DINA report, which includes a formal report on school capacity, school-related issues. On any site development review that has residential as a component of it, we do submit that for comment to all the agencies, including the school district, for which then they have the ability to report back, and we would include any report that we get from the school district regarding capacity concerns, about whether or not a new school would be needed. We would report that back in the staff report. If it's an actual something of a size that would result in a new school, those are usually projects that would result in development agreements, like what has occurred up in Sky Canyon or Providence, in areas where they were actually required as a part of those negotiations to set aside school sites to be developed in conjunction with the school district at some future date.
So that, knowing the dates of those, that was already a requirement before the ordinance.
Correct.
The ordinance under which we exist now.
Notice to the school district about a proposed residential project.
I just wanted to know what was in place and what's different in this particular ordinance. So I don't know if there are any other comments, questions from anybody else? Yes or no? Okay, so let's, well, I think what I want to do is hear from our cards now. So if you would, just in case there's something, if you'd stand by, I'd appreciate it. So let's start. I know you've all been sitting here a long day, so let's, if you would, we're going to have a minute each, let's do that, and then I want to hear from all of our cards that have just submitted now. So if you'd state your name and make your comment, appreciate it. 1 minute for everybody, please. Thank you for coming down.
Henry Baker, 125 Rockmoss Street, 89145. I just want to say that I support item 71 and item 73. Want to state that I moved to this area understanding that this is supposed to be like a Rodeo Drive of Las Vegas area. I don't agree with anybody trying to stop development and jobs. So that's it.
Thank you very much. And yes, sir?
Dennis Cronin. I just want to say I support this, item 71. Victoria Seaman, Council Seaman, I appreciate what you're doing. I know it takes courage to stand up, because I know there's just a small group of people against this, and I believe this is a great opportunity for Summerlin. I live in that area, and I drive by that area every day. It's an eyesore. So we need to do something down there. Queens Ridge, the two towers were built in 2005, and 6, and 7. Put a lot of members to work. I think that's what we're looking for. So I think another tower in that area would look beautiful. And then if you develop that area, I think it would look real nice. So I'm here to support that. So I'm hoping that it will pass today. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming down.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Doug Rankin on behalf of many residents of the Piccoli Ranch Master Development Plan Phase 2. I wanted to focus my 1 minute on those master studies. Currently, the ordinance requires the master studies up front, which will be seen by the public and those officials who make those decisions, so that you get a chance to review those studies to know if the drainage is an issue and what the mitigation answer to that drainage is. Do the buildings need to come up out of the ground and be taller in order to mitigate? If you repeal the ordinance, those drainage studies and the traffic studies all happen afterwards, and you will not be able to see those. And then the engineers will work out a solution which may result in the project coming out of the ground, may result in additional traffic lanes to be built in order to accommodate the traffic. The project doesn't go away because it's not feasible. What happens is those changes are agreed upon by staff and the engineers to figure out what works in order to build the project. That takes away your ability as the council to hear what the issues are with these areas of open space that are tough to develop. They're already there, they're already built.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hello, Kenneth McLean, 1300 South Arlington. I'd just like to say the project is an eyesore for the people that's really spending their taxes and trying to have a decent area to look at. So I would say, hey, if anything, you can make it into a water park. We never have enough water parks here. Backfill the ground in and level it off. I'll support Bill 71 and 72 as well to keep workers working.
Thank you.
And that's what I stand for. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Todd Bice. As you know, I'm legal counsel for many of the homeowners in Queens Ridge. What I would just briefly like to talk to you about is the timing of this ordinance, I think, is part of the problem. I mean, Councilwoman made a comment about the fact that there's a lot of litigation ongoing, and this ordinance is somehow, I guess the inference is going to resolve it. It's not. It's actually going to exacerbate it. Right now, the matter involving Judge Crockett's decision, everybody kind of agrees that issue will resolve a lot of this. That issue is fully briefed at the Nevada Supreme Court. All the briefing is done. All the judges have been appointed because there are certain justices had to recuse themselves. That matter is pending for resolution. By doing this ordinance right now, this action and the other items that are on here that pertain to it, you're going to breed an entire new round of litigation. It's going to end up necessitating more litigation. Whereas the Nevada Supreme Court is poised to address this very issue. The matter is done. It's briefed. And your council knows this.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Rogelio Gonzalez. I come here, letting you guys know that I'm a construction worker for the last 13 years. I support 71, 73. I always seen construction one of my biggest things that I do out here. I also represent members at Local 872 that would like to see this project move forward to create more jobs, good paying jobs, and keep our benefits going, along with keep our health for our families out here. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I am going to get to the cards, so just be patient, please. Thank you. Yes, sir.
How you doing? My name is Harvey Noy. I reside at 1029 Railroad Flat Court, Las Vegas, Nevada, and that's up in Summerlin. I voted for Councilwoman Seaman because of her promise, and I'm glad you're taking forward the step to get this resolved. We need to work, and the eyesore is getting kind of bad, and it's costing me a lot of money. It's costing me and a lot of taxpayers money. I would like to get this resolved. Thank you.
Yes, sir, please.
Good afternoon. I know we are from Africa. I just came to America a long time ago.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I just heard the clerk say, could you repeat your name and spell
my name is
your-
Anthony Sengo.
Okay. Do I have a card here?
Yes.
Yes, there he is. I got you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm from Africa. I came here, to work. But the thing that going on is I built New York for 15 years. And Las Vegas is the same tourist era. It got to be built. If we stop people from building Las Vegas will go down. I built New York for 15 years. So let's build Las Vegas. I was in Africa, I knew about Las Vegas. Now I'm in Las Vegas now. So let the union work. I came back, joined the union. They train me, you know. So let Power State build. Let put people to work. We want people to be homeless on the street. If people not working, we're going to be sleeping on the bridges. You see, in Africa, we got homeless because everybody want to work. People go on the farm, people go do a lot of work.
Thank
you.
you,
Construction.
sir.
Mayor, you're the best mayor.
Thank you.
I want for you to,
Thank
for
you,
your
sir.
city to be one.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You gotta
Thank
stop
you.
talking.
You're over your minute, and I cut you off already, so thank you. Yes, sir.
Hello, my name's Eddie Ramirez. I used to be a resident at 23 Chalice Street at 89110 on the east side. I see all the problems that's going on. I've been a construction worker for 20 years. There's an opportunity to put people to work and use some of those valuable resources for at-risk youth programs. I mean, we're served in our communities, and this is an opportunity to protect to those who you guys chose to represent. So please take that in consideration when you make a decision there. There's programs and assets that are being tied out to this project that could be used towards other at-risk youth programs or saving people's lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Wait till you get to the mic. Thank you.
Good afternoon,
Your name,
Mayor.
please.
Oh, Lori Jean McCorkle, MCCORKLE, and I'm currently homeless on the streets of Henderson, Las Vegas, Nevada, out on the city streets here. And God has brought me here to, in regards to your bill of that.
Do you know we're on agenda items 71 and 73?
Yeah, the ones for I'm dealing with the homeless because I wasn't able to to speak with them.
Sorry, I'm going to ask Ms. Gibson, Kathy Thomas Gibson, to talk with you about that. This is in her area. We have already addressed that issue this morning with public comment. I'm sorry you couldn't be here, but
Well, I
please
was here,
talk
but I
here.
was on the cards, but I'm not new to this procedures. I don't know how things work here, so
Okay.
forgive me for
Ms.
that. So
Ms. Thomas Gibson would help you right here. If you'll step over there, the lady in the black dress.
thank
you
you.
for
Appreciate-
coming down.
yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, so let's go on. We've got John Bradford, Derek Estelle, George Garcia. I see Ms. Quagliano right here, so were you one of these that I already did?
First name you said.
Let's do it in order, then I'm alphabetizing, so make it fair, and unless you have to leave.
No, I don't. I'm
Okay,
sorry, I
thank
didn't
you.
realize what you were
No,
trying to
it's all right. I just alphabetized them. Come on up, Mr. Bradford.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam
And you
Mayor
say
Pro
your name,
Tem.
please, even though I announced it.
I'm going to get to it.
Okay,
I'm going to use this was part of my introduction.
good.
So
Remember,
for
you
my
have a
time
minute
starts.
only.
For my time starts.
Go.
So I'm John Bradford, Mount Logan Court, Silverstone Ranch, and I think one of the things that we're forgetting, we're focusing on Councilwoman Seaman's bill about repealing 71 and 73, and we fought very hard for this. And one of the things I think you all are missing the point on is the third point that the first gentleman talked about, which was the maintenance. And our property has been in disrepair for 4.5 years. It's now a fire hazard behind my house. I know you have tried to abate it by removing some of the plants, but we have tumbleweeds piled up to the top of our fence. It's just a matter of an ignition source, and then we'll have a major a fire in our neighborhood. So what this bill, I just want to implore you that what this bill is doing by keeping it in place, it puts the onus on the developer to know that he has to maintain the property until he gets approval to do whatever he wants to do, which is fine. I'm not against workers, I'm not against construction, but I want the property maintained and not to blight and depress property values.
Good
Thank you.
point. Thank you. Good point. Thank you. Okay. Derek Estelle? Nope. Okay. George Garcia? Okay, thank you. Okay, sir, was your name in this card list? Okay, so if you'll just get a card, I'm going to Ms. Quagliano now because you're the next card alphabetically. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Paula Qualiana, 9621 Orient Express. Before I give my minute, I have a request. My husband, Joseph Qualiana, is unable to attend because of health reasons. Some of you know what those are, some of you don't. I know Mayor Goodman does. So my request is if I could give my minute and also read his minute today.
Well, only because I know you've been here almost at every meeting, and I've denied everybody the opportunity to have it, but he has been such a motivational individual in the cancer field of medicine and so generous, I am going to make an exception for Dr. Joe Quagliano.
I know he'll thank you for that.
Just one minute, though. Please don't go over.
He'll appreciate that very
Thank you.
much.
So if you would start on Dr. Quagliano's written statement.
I'd like to give mine first, if that's all right with you.
Thanks.
Fact and fiction. The fact is, without an ordinance, a developer tore down the fencing around Wallapai and Alta, breaching the Queens Ridge security, chopped down trees, put up ugly red signs. The ordinance you're considering to eliminate could delete these punitive and harassing actions by developer. That repealing this ordinance will save dollars and existing litigation is fiction. It's misinformation. The fact is, homeowners and associations can file just as expensive lawsuits against the city. That means more taxes and maybe more settlements. Also, repealing risks establishing precedents showing developers and large institutions they can get their demands by filing a lawsuit against the city. This ordinance is not discriminatory. All developers are in fact treated equally. There shouldn't be any complaint.
Sorry, that's the end. Now let's go to the written statement, if you would, please. Thank you. Wait 1 second, please. Your mic is somehow off. There it is. Okay, please go ahead.
The claim that repealing this ordinance will save tax dollars in litigation costs is fiction. The fact is, repealing the ordinance will open the door to multiple citizens and homeowners associations whose property rights and property values have been affected can also file lawsuits, thus requiring the city to defend more lawsuits with even more tax dollars. Further, not only would repealing the ordinance ignore the city's responsibility to its citizens, it would also risk establishing a precedent showing developers or anyone else that they can get their demands by simply filing a lawsuit against the city. This ordinance is not discriminatory and is meant to preserve communities that would be significantly impacted by developments threatening to reduce or eliminate open space. Vote no.
Thank you very much for your comments, and our best to your husband, please. Okay, Mr. Michael Corsini, please. Nope. Okay. Thomas Marley.
For the record, Tom Morley.
Okay, your mic isn't on, just, it'll, there
we
it
go.
is. Okay.
For the record, Tom Morley with Local 872-2345 Red Rock Street. My job, first and foremost, is to support jobs development for my members. As a planning commissioner for another government agency, I don't speak for that agency. However, no one is ever happy with infill development. However, it is a much-needed necessity currently. I've seen both arguments and feel this infill project and others like it must move forward, and I urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, and now we have, is there anyone else who wishes to speak? This gentleman asked to speak at the end. Okay. Former legislator, Bob Coffin. Former city councilman for 150 years. Former resident for another 100.
Mayor, I still have 4 years left on this if I want to come back. Thank you. I don't. Thank you very much for hearing me, Your Honor. I'll try to be as quick as I can.
But do say your name,
I've lived
please.
this with you. My name is Bob Coffin, 1139 5th Place, Ward 3. downtown, right in the heart. I've lived this with you for 5 years, and it's an ugly situation. A very wealthy individual has blackjacked the council and the residents of the area. It's portrayed as wealthy people in there, when in fact it's really not. There's about half a dozen really wealthy folks, and the rest of them are middle class who hold their old homes, cashed in their equity, and bought in what was to be a quiet life. You have in your files the brochures which promise to all of these homeowners a gated golf course community with a European lifestyle. That's there. Forget the fine point. I got to tell you that those promises have not been kept, and it's our duty, it seems to me, to help people. I don't care who they are. How can we end lawsuits? Well, I guess by serving on the council, I was pursued a slap suit by this developer. It's been thrown out by the federal courts.
I hate to do this, but I got to cut you off.
No, you don't hate to.
It's only fair. It's only fair. You know, we've loved you all these years. We never knew where you were. I know. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Bob. Okay, he asked to be the last, so I'm going to let that hold there. And if there are any comments, questions from council, yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So our mayor has been going through this for 5 years. I only about 2.5. But I'm going to tell you that what I've experienced sitting here and meeting with everyone and, you know, that live in Queens Ridge, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And what do I mean by that? Literally, I've met with 120 people that live in Queens Ridge that have said, a few of them, they've joined some of the meetings, and every time they've had a different opinion, Frank Schreck would yell and bully them. This is what I've heard. So they're not going to come up and they don't want to create anguish with their neighbors. They just don't want to do that. And so I'm going to have you hear from a person that is a dear friend to all of us up here, and you can understand, and that person's never come here, right, and spoke about this. But it's literally the few of you that are here, and you know, when you gathered in the beginning with 50, it's really, it's not the majority. And so I just want you to hear something.
Michelle, it's Shelley Berkeley. How are you? And congratulations again on your victory. Larry and I are going out of town. We're going on vacation, so I'm not going to be at the meeting tomorrow, and I know it is a very tough meeting. I would never presume upon another elected official to tell you how to vote. But as a Queens Ridge resident, it is time to resolve this issue. If the developer owns the property, and if he has a legal right to develop, then we need to move forward on this, because the status quo simply is not working. If he conforms to the zoning issues, and can come up with a good density plan, then I would suggest that we look at moving ahead, because it cannot continue in this manner. And I wish you luck tomorrow. I know it's going to be a contentious meeting, but I think it's time that we move on, recognize his rights, and start developing and turning that area into a paradise. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Okay, so your neighbors don't want to fight with you. They don't want to come here, and they don't want to make enemies of their neighbors. They're your neighbors. But more than triple the amount of people that have come up here, yell at us, disrespect us, have literally sat with me and told me, please help resolve this. We have a new councilwoman here on council with us. I urged her not to meet with the group that she met with. I told her she was going to get attacked.
innocently, she's like, no, they literally asked, they wanted to talk about it, blah, blah, blah. And what happened? Famous Frank Schreck bullied her, took over the meeting, really horrific treatment. Not okay. So what I'm asking this council to do is support our new councilwoman in what she does to resolve this in her ward and work together as neighbors. More of you want this than less. It's just the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and that's what I'm going to leave it as.
Excuse me, Mayor, I need to speak. I was at that meeting. That's a misrepresentation. That's not exactly the way it happened at all. The majority of the people there were against what she was talking about. This is
Okay. All right. Let's, I'm sorry, I wish I'd had your comments before, but, you know, it's been a long time, and I think we all know the moment, and I, again, will say what I said 4 years ago, married to a lawyer, 2 sons who are lawyers, one of whom's a judge. Once legal gets in, nobody wins. It's just, it's horrendous. And I think of how long, and knowing the pain from residents and knowing the pain of the developer, which I'm sure as the developer puts out money. I've not had conversations, but I know the main thing is, which is what I saw 4 years ago once law got into it, everybody'd lose. And I look at that property and it breaks my heart. It was one of the most beautiful properties. But then again, too, I live in an area where people have torn down houses and some's back to its desert look. And, you know, most important thing for all of us first is to be thankful for the families you have and for the safety that we're provided by our first responders. And the rest of it just has to work out. And it breaks my heart to see this ongoing for 4 years. And it is, and I say it freely, I say it at home all the time. Once lawyers get involved, everybody seems to lose except for the one person who may end up having an award made by the courts. So to me, this has broken my heart these 4 years, and we've all sat here till well into the night, coming in here early in the morning, and I feel sorriest for our staff who come in at 7, and then on occasion through planning and through council meetings is here into the wee hours again and again and again. And certainly Councilman Stavros Anthony has been through it all. He's been on board longer than I, but the good thing is this issue didn't come up before. So it is something that we just can't, will it ever work itself out? Maybe not even in my lifetime, and that's just sad. It's just really sad, because I believe, and I absolutely believe always in absolute truth, and if I don't know it, I can't tell you something if I wasn't there. If I was there and had been at something, I can tell you for fact, which on a sword, I can assure you that the facts that I heard, I would repeat. I've not been at the recent town hall meeting. I know this is just part of this painful suffering that goes on. And by the time we hear from the courts or the Supreme Court, whatever the decision is, it will be appealed. The other side's going to appeal. So the sadness that I personally believe this can go on 5, 6, 8 years longer. And that to me is not acceptable. Mr. Marley, are you still here, Mr. Marley? I thought that was a wonderful comment, because that's something that should be written in, that whoever purchases the land has a responsibility to maintain it. That to me makes such good sense, because we've been watching this. We're a young city and we continue to have hiccups all the way around for things that come from our past, and we have to deal with them because we're a young city. So all of this is, to me, I see this issue continuing on far into the future, and I may not be alive at the time it's totally resolved. I feel sorry for the fact that we haven't developed it. And so my biggest concern from day one, once this continued into the courts and made it to the Supreme Court, with some having to recuse themselves, very fine justices that can't even hear the case, and then how do you get impartial judgment, etc., was to go back into our planning department and get an education, which is what I tried to ask our wonderful Mr. Summerfield to put it down at my level, get it way down here so I can understand clearly. For 20 years, Goodmans have been in this seat. And so for the past 20 years, what have we been doing? Why hasn't this happened? Well, this was a real first. Yes, Silverstone had its issues. They're going to be open development properties, large pieces. We don't know what the economy is going to hope, and maybe happen with our American Park or one of our bigger parks. So the issue I wanted to find out, how have we been operating up to the time of this particular issue? Was the city allowing people to just go ahead willy-nilly when they have traffic, and knowing that we're going to have traffic problems created by this development? And I've been assured, which I asked Mr. Summerfield in the most simplistic terms, what was happening before the ordinance was brought to us to vote on. And so it seemed to me, except for mandated requirements for meeting with residents. And I do recall the councilman saying, we are going to put into this 7 required meetings, at which point my councilman on my left said 1 meeting, but I have heard also from Mr. Summerfield that there is no way a lobbyist, a developer knows that they're going to build anything without having meetings. It's just been throughout history. The other pieces were these stopgaps there in the past, and we were operating. What's new besides the required in writing mandatory, which was just assumed that we would have to have a requirement for meetings with homeowners. If I could ask you to come back to the whatever you call it, microphone, Mr. Summerfield, and reassure just me at this point that what was in place up until this new ordinance was voted into effect, that everything was in process to achieve the same end results, except for a written statement that we have required neighborhood meetings. Everything else was taken care of, and the only difference is the developer has to pay up front, which does in effect say to a developer, I'm not going to bother with this, I'll go somewhere else.
Madam Mayor,
I'm not asking you for a recommendation, by the way.
No. Madam Mayor, members of council, Robert Summerfield, Director of Planning again. So to answer that question, so again, there are elements within the requirements that require additional documentation. So I don't want to...
Wait a minute, if I may, I'm sorry to be rude.
Nope.
Before or now?
Now.
In the new ordinance.
In the ordinance that is in place, there are some elements that do require some additional documentation that is not documentation that we would otherwise require for any other project. So I do want to be clear that in terms of new stuff, there's what we called in the ordinance an alternative statement. That's not something we've ever done or do in any other circumstance.
What's an alternative?
So the alternative statement is something that the developer is obligated to produce that basically has to answer some questions. At its base, it's saying, if you didn't propose this project, whatever that project might be, what else might you have done with the land? Would you have continued to operate it as a golf course? Would you continue to have it as a park? Would you change it to what the one gentleman said, to a water park?
What would you do if you
What would you have done differently than this proposal that's before you today? So that's one thing. There was another aspect that is a document that's is required as a part of this, that's called an environmental worksheet, which again is an inventory. It's not actionable per se. It's where they need to inventory any environmental assets that may exist on the property that's proposed to be repurposed.
Can I ask you that you've brought that up? Were we in our prior to this ordinance, were we not concerned about environment?
We are. So under your master plan, the 2020 master plan, and the conservation element specifically talks about this, there are certain things that we do care about from policy guidance that we have from the 2020 master plan that we do need to address. So if you have any endangered species, you do have to identify those things as a part of your development and have a mitigation plan. But this specific spelled out that way, this environmental worksheet, that was different and new in this. And then finally, the last...
And there was, but beforehand, was there an environmental piece to protect the environment?
Not spelled out that way, but yes, it was a concern and is something that has to be addressed and is part of the analysis when we do an analysis on a proposed project.
Could you deny my development if in fact I weren't in, or could we deny it if the development weren't environmentally sensitive?
Absolutely.
Before?
Absolutely. You have goals and objectives in your master plan that staff would have recommended if you have an environmental situation, if you have a burrowing owl colony on the property and you don't have a plan to address where those burrowing owls may go to keep them productive and healthy, then yes, that would be grounds, because one of the findings we have to make is consistency with the general plan. And so under that, staff may make the recommendation for denial, and the city council or the planning commission can adopt that finding.
Okay, and that would have happened before the ordinance or no?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So
and again, it's an inventory. It's not it's just another document. And then finally, the only other thing is this maintenance closure plan, which again is additional documentation. It's not, at the end of the day, it's not something that gets voted on by city council. So it is a document that a developer who's closing a park or a golf course or any other open space, it's a document that they're going to give to the Department of Planning that highlights how they plan to maintain that property while it's in its closed state. So before it develops into whatever its next life is going to be, how it's going to be maintained in its closed state.
So that's Mr. Marley's suggestion. Correct? That's what he was talking about. How are you going to maintain the property? So that's not something, or did you, and in whoever was your predecessor and his predecessor and his predecessor, what were we doing about open space maintaining its essence?
So that's the point. So open space, like any other property in the city of Las Vegas, has basic maintenance requirements that it is to achieve. When we have a property that's out of compliance with those maintenance requirements, I think I heard a comment about Silverstone, where unfortunately we have had to do previous abatements, and we're in the process, because that property owner has not been able to maintain that property in good care. We're in the process of working through another abatement situation on that one. Can't go into specifics because it's an open code case, but just like in all other cases, we have maintenance requirements, we have upkeep of property that is required, and when a property owner fails to do that, particularly if there is a concern about life safety, then our code enforcement team addresses that with the property owner, provides them opportunity to remedy the situation, and if they fail to remedy the situation, then the city takes appropriate action to bring the property into compliance with your maintenance code.
Okay.
Again, already existing.
Okay. Okay, any other questions? Yes, please, if you would, Councilman.
Thank you, Mayor. And for the record, just a quick sidetrack on item number 70, I was absent and I didn't realize there would be a comment period. So for the clerk to show that I would vote in opposition to item number 70. With regards to this particular item, this has come up a lot during my campaign and obviously while on the city council, and just a couple of quick comments. Coming into this, it's in a very confusing conversation with a lot of different layers. I was overwhelmed in the beginning and received a lot of questions from some of the people in the audience, a lot of residents in Queens Ridge. And I wanted to assure everyone that's listening or that will watch this that I followed through on every single question and every every commitment that I made, I followed through on. When there are things that I didn't know, I asked staff. When there were questions about the staff's integrity, I asked people outside of the city, and I asked outside counsel for feedback and guidance as well. There's accusations about bullying on me. I really have not been bullied by anybody, including anyone on this council, and I have not been influenced by anyone on this council at all. I've taken all the information and I've made decisions based on what I think is in the best interest of this ward. As it relates to many of the other items today, I think the city should be spending money on services for our community as opposed to lawyers. And so I will be in support of this item, which I know is a disappointment to many people. But I do think that the money that we spend on litigation is damaging to the city and damaging to the services we provide. With that being said, this is absolutely no way an indication of how I will vote on future development agreements that come before the City Council. I understand the perspective of the residents. I respect the perspective of the residents. And I will do my due diligence with every item that comes before City Council, much like I've done for this item. With that, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, yes, please, Councilman Clare.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, wow, here we are again, right? I've been dealing with this for, no, you can sit down. Been dealing with this for over 4 years, and I remember the night that, I take that back. We haven't been dealing with this open space ordinance for 4 years. We've been dealing with the development of Badlands, which I don't see the correlation between the two, except for it's another open space that has been repurposed, and similar to Silverstone and any other open spaces that we have. And I, with all due respect to my peer and the sponsor of this ordinance, I vehemently disagree. For the reasons I stated previously to the reasons I state now, I understand that if there was an issue with this ordinance that directly affected developers, that directly affected real estate developers, then they would have come out in full force and tried to get with us and speak with us regarding the merits of the pros and cons of this ordinance. And I only saw one, and that came out. Nobody else. There was no other developers, no other major developer, no other Greater Realtors Association came out, nobody. And so from sitting on the Planning Commission for 2 years prior, the question did come up a lot and while on council, have you done these things when they're coming up in front of us for whether it's a GPA or major mod or whatever the case may be? And they say, no, we haven't done it, we'll do it later. And I always found that a little odd. As a planning commissioner, but I felt that when it went to council, maybe it'll get vetted by the time it goes there, because planning commission is a recommending committee to the city council that make the final decision. So now comes a board that says, hey, you need to do these things before you come in front of us, and I don't think that's a lot to ask, number one, and I don't think it's singled out to any one developer. It goes across the board to anybody who's going to repurpose open space, and I think it's fair and I think it's equitable. So I won't be supporting the repeal of it for obvious reasons that I've stated over and over and over again, but I have respect for my peer, and if this is what she feels is appropriate for her ward, then
Okay,
I wish her the best, but I will not be supporting it. I don't think it brings us any further. Many have talked about this helping the cause for the lawsuits, and everybody says the lawsuits. And you understand that it's easy for, not easy, but developers who want to just file a litany of lawsuits against the city and then cry foul about all the lawsuits that have happened with the city, and then takes no responsibility out of the lawsuits for the city, then I don't think that's right either. I don't think this moves us any further. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Anthony.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, we're back to talking about Queens Ridge and Badlands, like you've mentioned, we've been doing for the last 4 years, and every time one of these votes come up, it's tough. It's a tough vote. Good information on both sides, good people on both sides, but I have to vote. What's interesting about this particular vote, though, is we keep bringing up Queens Ridge and Badlands. And I don't represent Ward 2. I represent Ward 4. And if you read the ordinance, it says at the top, it says, this bill to adopt additional standards and requirements regarding the repurposing of golf courses and open spaces in the city of Las Vegas. It doesn't mention development, doesn't mention a ward, just says the city of Las Vegas. So I represent Ward 4. I represent the 100+ thousand people that live in Ward 4. Ward 4 has Sun City Summerlin, which has 3 golf courses. Ward 4 has Painted Desert, that has 1 golf course. Ward 4, which I represent, has Desert Shores, which has a lot of open space lakes. There's also a lot of open space in Ward 4 in these master plan communities, as well as smaller master plan communities that are owned by somebody, but they're designated as Ward 4, as open space. And the people that live next to these golf courses and lakes and open space bought a residence there because of those amenities. And they probably paid a premium for them. They probably paid a lot premium for them. And they understand it's privately owned. They understand that something may happen to it someday, but they hope that it doesn't happen. And this particular ordinance doesn't stop anybody from developing those golf courses and open spaces. They can be developed, but what this ordinance does is it adds a few extra steps that a developer has to take in order to develop those golf courses and open spaces that were built for the people that live in my ward. And I have to tell them that I supported an ordinance that provided some level of extra steps that would need to be taken to develop those properties, knowing that they still could be developed based on what the city council does. So I need to tell those folks that I represented them, because that's what they're telling me to do. People in Sun City and Desert Shores and Painted Desert and other parts of Ward 4 have called me and said, we want you to support this ordinance because it does provide a level of protection or extra steps that can be, that need to be taken by developers. So I'm not going to repeal this ordinance. It was passed 4-2 by the City Council. I have no reason to repeal it based on who I represent in Ward 4. So I will not be supporting the repeal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I think at this point, did you want to please, Councilwoman?
Since everyone's already spoken, I just find it, pertinent for me to also speak to the repeal. And being a native Las Vegan and seeing the tremendous growth that we have experienced as a city, I can't just think about the here and the now. I need to be a conscientious new council member and start thinking futuristically about where we're headed. And part of it is we are on our way to our master plan vision of 2050, and we can't really make prudent, intelligent decisions on behalf of our residents if we're not informed. And I feel that the ordinance that was crafted prior to me arriving by the residents and the homeowners is that sunshine and that transparency and that information that allows and affords electeds to make educated decisions. And I think that that's just part of being responsible and ensuring that there's balanced development and that we're bringing those that are going to be impacted and affected by it into the conversation earlier versus never. So thinking about how it's increasingly becoming more and more landlocked in my ward and how very few spaces we do have to develop, I feel that I don't want to take the safety net away that engages my residents, my homeowners, just my community. I want to make sure that they feel like they're involved and that we're doing best by the schools, by traffic, and by safety. And by safety, I mean, is increasing the density going to allow us to afford more police officers also? So with that, this is not about voting for or against, but I think it's really taking in mind what my role is and why I'm here. And I hope that we can hopefully move beyond this and find a better day, because this has been difficult on this whole city council for a long time.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so there is a motion, and before I do advise what I'm going to be doing, I wanted to be very sure, again, because of the 20 years of involvement with the city, that everything that was in the process for development, we at the city were addressing, that there was nothing in here except the mandated one meeting, which usually does result in many more than one meeting if there's any pushback from any community. And I tend to echo, and it does break my heart, that dollars and dollars and dollars and dollars that we need so desperately to run this city that are being wasted in the legal realm of things. So I am actually going to be voting for this, and hope that Councilwoman Seaman goes ahead and puts in something as we move forward. If there's a new ordinance that is submitted, that it would talk to Mr. Marley. I'm going to make you famous, Mr. Marley. Your suggestion there that we address that in the future and look at that element, that the criteria for it. But I, like Councilman Knutson, very desperately I see nothing has been achieved by this ordinance. It was a very lengthy one, a lot of time, effort. Nothing new. We were already doing it, so it was duplicating what was there. And as my hope is that we will continue to look at it with a fine-tooth comb and expect planning and our city manager and all our departments to keep looking at this, is we may bring back, or maybe you're going to do it now, I think it's agendized, but I don't know what you're going to do with it, that we assure the futures of large pieces of land, that we're treating them reasonably, but to encourage development and truth in how we see the future, and not discourage developers from coming in. So I will be voting in favor of your motion. And now,
Mayor, Jeff Dorkek, Deputy City Attorney, we don't have a motion on the floor, actually. If you want to...
We don't?
No, I don't believe so.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve.
Okay. Thank you. There's a motion then. I've lost the number. What number are we on? 71. There's a motion on number 71. Please vote and please post. And this is on the repeal. And that motion carries. And so we will now go on to agenda item, where are we now? 72? Okay, sorry.
73.
We'll do 73, right? We were going to pull those together. So hold on, please. Agenda number 72, bill number 2019-49. Councilman Anthony, would you like the bill read?
Yes, Mayor.
Please.
Yes, Mayor. This is bill number 2019-49, an ordinance to amend various provisions of the Unified Development Code to establish city communication sign as a subcategory of off-premise sign and establish the parameters under which such signs are allowed and to provide for other related matters.
Move for approval.
Thank you. There's a motion to approve agenda item, where are we? Why is it not up here? I read 72.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
He did. So it's 72. But how come I'm not functioning here? That was 72 we read, so...
That was 72. That was 72, the city communication sign. We didn't pull 73 forward, so we are in order. We'll be going on to 73 now.
And now we'll go, so please vote on agenda item 72. It was just wrong. Me? No, I did it. There it is. Thank you. Okay, now 73, which I should have been reading, is bill number 2019-51. Councilman Anthony, I'm sure you want the bill read.
Yes.
Please.
Bill number 2019-51, an ordinance to amend the Unified Development Code, specifically LVMC Section 19.16.10, to add new provisions regarding neighborhood meetings, including mandatory meetings for certain types of applications, such as a general plan amendments regarding land use and applications to repurpose certain golf courses and open spaces, and to provide for other related matters. And just as a note, Mayor, in the backup for today's agenda, we have a proposed First Amendment that was reviewed at recommending committee. This bill came out of recommending committee with no recommendations, so we are going to need, if there's a motion to approve this bill, please make it with the proposed First Amendment. It's a technical matter just to make sure that all of the proper applications have the neighborhood meeting that this bill would set forth.
Okay, and before you make a recommendation here, can I request of staff that they take what I, for lack of a better term, the Marley recommendation into consideration if this should pass, to add it in. Mr. Summerfield, I think it is what does happen to open space land use, that should be
Absolutely,
just
Madam.
taken in consideration.
Absolutely, we can have that, and we can have it for a future briefing, and if there's a sponsor for it, then we can move it through the ordinance process.
So, but what I'd like to hear about it, what are the negatives? I mean, obviously, we know the positive. I thought he did a great job in explaining what he thought, and it made sense to me, but then I'm sure the reasons why not. So, as we go forward, so that stands separate, unless this recommendation and a request of Councilwoman Seaman doesn't pass, so.
We'll provide that information in briefing setting,
Thank
and then if we have someone who wishes to sponsor that, then we'll have something
And anything
forward.
else that comes up that's of significant that we have, like the environmental piece, maybe we want something a little more specific in there.
Of course.
So am I making a motion to...
Just on this, what's agendized?
Okay, so, Madam Mayor, I move to approve?
Agenda item 73.
Yes.
With the proposed First Amendment, please.
Oh, sorry, you
Oh,
said it.
so
I'm
it was,
brain
okay.
dead.
So I move to approve with the amended First Amendment.
With the first proposed amendment, correct. Thank you,
Proposed
Councilwoman.
amendment.
Thank you.
Is there a point of clarification of what that first report of amendment is? It's just for clarity.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, to Councilman Creer. It's a technical wording the city attorney's office did with planning to make sure that this bill has to do with neighborhood meetings. We wanted to make sure we caught everything for land applications, that they have the neighborhood meetings.
Okay.
Just for you, Stavros.
Okay, and that motion carries. Thank you very much. And you know what, thank you very much, that motion carries. You know what we didn't do, or was I sleeping through this? At 10 a.m., we were supposed to have Mayor Pro Tem read 86, 87, and 95.
No, you don't have to do it at 10. It's when we get to that item. There's an item associated.
Oh, so not a preemptive up front, okay. I feel like I need to go. All right, now, item number 74, recommending committee bills eligible at adoption for a later meeting. Items number 74, bill number 2019-50 will be heard at a later meeting. We'll move on to new bills. New bills, number 75, item number 7576, bill 2020-1, 2020-2 will be heard at a recommending committee meeting on Monday, February 3rd, 2020. City Attorney, please read the new bills.
Yes, ma'am. Bill number 2020-1, an ordinance to amend the Town Center Development Standards Manual to provide that the use motor vehicle sales used is allowed in the GC Land Use District only by means of special use permit, to remove the provision limiting that use to the Auto Mall site located within the Centennial Center Plan, and to provide for other related matters. Bill number 2020-2, an ordinance to amend LVMC Section 19.12.70 to adjust the standards for waiving the minimum distance separation from a protected use that is otherwise required for either a beer wine cooler off-sale establishment with a retail component or a beer wine cooler on and off-sale establishment with a retail component, and to provide for other related matters.
Thank you very much. So bills number 2020-1 and 2020-2 are assigned to the February 3rd, 2020 recommending committee members, Councilman Anthony Knutson and Councilwoman Mayor Pro Tem Fiore. If any so designated are unable to attend, the clerk's office will coordinate finding substitutes as necessary at my direction. Yes? Yes. Okay, so now... 78. For possible action, any items from the 10 a.m. Oh, there it is. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you. Any items from the 10 a.m. session that the council staff and/or applicant wish to be stricken, tabled, withdrawn, or held in abeyance to a future meeting may be brought forward and acted upon this time. Please.
Madam Mayor, we have the items number 86 and 87, SUP-77365 and SDR-77366, applicant owner 900 Fremont LLC at 916 Fremont Street. Abeyance requested to February 5th, 2020, requested by our councilwoman Diaz. And item number 95, DIR-78038, applicant City of Las Vegas at 1600 South Las Vegas Boulevard, Suite 120, abeyance to February 19th, 2020, requested by the applicant.
And that's your motion?
And that is my motion.
Thank you. There's a motion on those items. Please vote and please post.
There we go.
Michelle, did you vote? No.
Oh, I thought I did.
It didn't go through. Motion carries. Okay. We're on to Agenda 79, public hearing and discussion for possible action to consider a request for a waiver and/or reduction of fees totaling $18,334.59, out-of-pocket costs $90,000, civil penalties for a total of $108,334.59, recorded against the property located 1614 East Ogden Avenue, property owner MT Real Estate Investment, Inc., Ward 5, Councilman Creer, the public hearing, which I declare open, and let's hear from Mrs. Zuna first.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, Council. The item before you today is a request of waiver of civil penalties for the property located at 1614 East Ogden Avenue. Code enforcement completed 4 abatement actions on this property from 2011 to 2019, while the property was owned by Jose Cepeda. The total hard cost assessed against the property through the 4 abatements was $18,334.59 and $90,000 in civil penalties. The property was purchased by MT Real Estate LLC on August 6, 2019 for $157,000. Code enforcement inspected this property on Monday and found high weeds on the property, but the building is secure. The new owner has not rehabilitated the property yet, and the city has basically acted as the property management for the previous owner for the last 5 years. Staff is requesting that you deny this waiver request.
Thank you very much. And so, gentlemen, if you'll introduce yourselves and tell us what your interests are and what you would like heard by the council.
My name is Michael Turner. I represent MT Real Estate Investment.
Okay.
My name is Gregory Logan. I'm an associate of Mike Turner.
Okay. The 1-2 punch. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for allowing us to come here before you today. And I just want to mention for the new council members that didn't know, we have been here before, and in fact, we came before the council on a property on 1209 Norman, and City Council was nice enough to grant us 100% relief on civil penalties. We also came to City Council on 2009 Linden, 1402 Joshua, 1215 16th Street, and 849 Greenbrook Street, all of which we were granted 90% waiver on civil penalties on these property, on those properties. Here today before you, we request on this particular property 100% waived on civil penalties. And the reason is because the property's been vacant for at least 10, maybe even 12 years.
Wow.
The renovation on this property, and if I can I just go through these pictures real quick?
Certainly.
Yeah. This is referring to the front of the property. And now we're going inside.
Oh my, can you turn that one, please, that last one?
I'm sorry.
No, the upside down. You're hanging from the
this way?
ceiling. There you are, okay. When was that taken, please?
Probably about 30 days ago.
Okay.
Recent time.
Okay.
This is the rear property, and it abates up to commercial property. Once again, the rear of the property.
Okay, thank you.
And so with the amount of expense it's going to take to make this property whole, that's the reason why we would request 100% of waiver of the civil penalties. And we're here to answer any questions that Mr. Greer may have or anybody else.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Summerfield, any comments, Mr. Summerfield or Ms. McElhone or Mrs. Zuna? Anybody want to make any comments here?
No, ma'am, nothing from beyond what Mrs. Zuna has already put on the record. Thank you.
Thank you. So any questions from council? Nope. Okay, it's your baby, Councilman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You know, Mr. Turner, it's a pleasure to see you. Mr. Logan, pleasure to see you as well. You know, we've met and we talked, and I still stand with what I said, was that I don't mind working with a developer, especially on civil penalties, and if they're showing that they're doing something that is more beneficial to the community. I think it makes a lot of sense, but I have yet to see anything from you that shows what you're doing. And I told you this too, and it's no offense to you as an individual and as your business. I think you have a long history, but people do come in front of us and they make promises on things and they do not do them. They come in and get entitlements for things, and then they turn around and sell the property. They get abatement on civil penalties, and then they turn around and flip the property and sell it, and then we're nowhere closer to getting an enhanced and a beautiful home, a building, than we were the first time, yet we've mitigated $90,000 worth of civil penalties, which are accumulated because of the fact that, like Mr. Zuna said, they've had to become the property manager for 5 years for this property just to keep it up and afloat. And so there needs to be some remuneration for that. And then also, I don't know what you're doing there, and I think you need to do it, then come back in front of this board, and we'll work with you to get those civil penalties mitigated.
Councilman, if I might
Yes,
interrupt
please.
you, the one thing I failed to do, it is a public hearing, so if there's anybody, I did fail to do that. Is there anyone here that has comments on this item number 79? Please come forward. Okay, now I'll close it back to you.
Great,
Sorry.
thank you, Madam Mayor. So I haven't changed on that from our conversation that we had with me and my staff, and so I'm not sure, as of today, I would not feel comfortable mitigating any of the civil penalties as of today, because I just don't know what's going to happen, and I haven't seen you make any strides towards rehabbing this property.
And therefore, your motion is?
Well, I'll give you an option. I don't know if you want to table this or pull
I
it,
would,
or what have you.
I could come back, Mr. Kerr, if you wish. I could also post a bond up if you wish, but I've been in business almost 30 years.
Yep.
My reputation with my license can be easily checked. You can probably do it by your phone. Michael Turner, Turner Realty, MT Real Estate Investments. We don't play games, and furthermore, I do have a track record with the city council.
Yep, you're right. And I tell you, when I first got on council, there was a developer that came in and said they're going to build $100 million worth of apartments on the corner of Decatur and Vegas Drive, and they had plans, and they said they're going to do the whole thing, and we gave them the entitlements, and next thing you know, a friend of mine said, hey, you know that property's for sale. So it's no offense to you.
It's okay.
Right? And it really isn't. I want to help you, but
Okay.
I just need, you need to give me something.
Okay, can you give me-
If you want to get halfway through the rehabilitation and come back or something, but, you haven't broken ground, there's nothing there. The place still looks like it did from when you purchased it.
That's correct,
And
yeah.
so, and I understand what you're saying. You're saying, look, I don't know if I want to invest this money if I can't get my civil penalties taken care of,
Right.
which makes a lot of sense. But I'm
Okay.
telling you that I'll be happy to work with you, but
Okay.
you have to give me something.
Okay.
And show me something that you're moving forward with something. Now, if we deny it today, then that means you can't come back. That means, is that etched in stone that they can never come back, or they have to wait a year to come back? Or
No, they can come back. They can reapply for a new waiver when they're ready, and we can put it back on the agenda if that's what you want.
And Mr. Creer, do they have to pay, do you have to
Right,
pay
that's what I
again?
asked that. They would have to pay for a whole new filing fee again.
There is no filing fee for
Oh,
our
it's just,
hearings.
there's not?
No, but the problem is that it is on tax roll, and,
Yep.
it's out there to go up for auction, but
Would
I mean, that's
it be
the
okay if I post a $100,000 bond and come back in 90 days with a beautiful product, and then we can solve it then?
I would have to refer to either Mr. Summerfield, Ms. McElhain, or somebody, sounds good to me, right? But
Okay.
I just
I
worked
want
on this
everybody to have a
before.
comfort level. I'm not trying to pull
And I'm not saying you are.
over.
I completely want to work with you, and I have every
Thank you.
trust that you're going to get this done, especially based off of your history from before. And I apologize that you even have to go through this. It's just a matter of, this is what I have seen, and I don't feel comfortable just mitigating this without, and this is no different than anybody else, whether it's $2 million on the Moulin Rouge property, or if it's
That's right.
$90,000
Okay.
on Ogden Street. So maybe Mr. Summerfield or Mary or Vicky or somebody can tell me what might be a suggestion.
So, Madam Mayor, through you, so Councilman, again, typically, we look for actual performance.
Right.
So we look for improvements to have been completed or substantially completed.
Right.
For the hearing officer or council in the past, when we have made recommendations for lowering those civil penalties, it really is, at the end of the day, up to you on what you deem is sufficient to feel comfortable that they're going to invest the money that you're waiving back into the property and back into the community. So if you feel comfortable that somehow the bond will satisfy that concern, like I said, typically we look for proof of improvement.
And Councilman, maybe if we just obey the item for 4 months or 3 months.
That's what I was thinking.
Give the applicant an opportunity
Yeah.
to make the changes you think you'd want to see, and then have them come back and on a status check.
That's what I had said originally.
4 months is more than fair. I'll have
Okay,
that
great.
before then.
Great. Why don't we obey it for 4 months?
Okay.
And come back, and then in the process, let us know what's going on, and we'll work with you to.
I'll keep you posted, I promise.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very
All
much.
right.
Thank you.
Do we need a motion for that?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'd
go
like
ahead.
to make a motion to obey this for 4 months. Is there, anybody have a calendar when that meeting
May
might be?
20th.
Pardon me?
May 20th.
To May 20th. Thank you.
So in the meantime, fix it up.
Yes.
Oh, we will.
So there is a motion.
You know we will. Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.
Wait, we have to vote. 1 sec, please, before it happens. Legitimately. There you are, now you got it. Thank you, Mrs. Zuna. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to move on to 80 through 85, may be considered in one motion, one vote, and are considered routine, non-public, public hearing items with no condition changes. Any person representing an application or a member of the public or member of the council not in agreement with the conditions and all standard conditions for the application recommended by staff should request to have that item removed from this portion of the agenda. Number 80, RQR 77463, applicant Las Vegas Billboards, owner Wild Decatur LLC, on a required review of an approved special use permit, SUP 3061, for a 40-foot tall sign, 12-foot by 24-foot off-premise sign at 1571 North Decatur Boulevard, C1 Limited Commercial Zone, Ward 5. Councilman Creer, number 81, DIR 77999. Boy, that's a good number. Applicant owner, Howard Hughes Corporation, LLC, on a required review of a 24-month development report as required by Section 11.01 of the Summerlin West Development Agreement, generally located west of the I-215 Beltway and north of Charleston Boulevard, Ward 2, Councilwoman Seaman. Agenda item 82, EOT 77996, applicant owner Sahara Edmond Plaza LLC. Request for a first extension of time for a non-conforming liquor establishment tavern use at 5310 West Sahara Avenue, Suite D, C1 Limited Commercial Zone 1, Councilman Knutson. Number 83, RQR 77460, applicant Regan National Advertising, owner Mercado 888 LLC, on a required review of an approved special use permit SUP 2758 for a 40-foot tall, 14-foot by 48-foot off-premise sign at 6785 West Charleston Boulevard, C1 Limited Commercial Zone, Ward 1, Councilman Knutson. Number 84, RQR 77822, applicant Reagan National Advertising, owner 1999 LLC, and a required review of approved special use permit U-0034-01, 40-foot tall, 14-foot by 48-foot off-premise sign at 2101 South Decatur Boulevard, C2 General Commercial Ward 1 Zone, Councilman Knutson. Number 85, VAC 77685, applicant owner Good Hood LLC, on a request for a petition to vacate a 20-foot wide alley between Las Vegas Boulevard, 6th Street, south of Carson, Ward 3, Councilwoman Diaz. Staff recommends approval on all items. Planning Commission recommends approval on item 85. These are all public hearings, which I declare open. Is there anyone wishing to be heard on numbers 80 through 85? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close public hearings, and Mayor Pro Tem may have a motion, one vote, items 80 to 85, please.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the one motion, one vote items.
Thank you very much. This is a motion to approve. Please vote. And please post. Motion carries. Thank you very much. And as we know, 86 and 87 have been obeyed to February 5th.
Yep.
So we are now on to 88 through 92. Okay. ZON 77627, on a request for rezoning from U undeveloped SC Service Commercial General Plan designation to C1 Limited Commercial on .13 acres at the southwest corner of Kyle Canyon Drive and Oso Blanco Drive, number 89 SUP 77628, a request for a special use permit for a 5,100 square foot liquor establishment tavern use, number 90 SUP 77629, a request for a special use permit for a proposed 3,000 square foot beer wine cooler off sale establishment use, number 91 SDR 77630, and a request for a site development plan review for proposed commercial development consisting of 3,000 square foot restaurant with drive-through, a 3,000 square foot convenience store with fuel pumps and canopy, and a 5,500 square foot liquor establishment tavern with waivers of the perimeter landscape buffer requirements and to not orient the building to the corner and street frontage where such is required. And number 92 TMP 77631, a request for a tentative map for a one-lot commercial subdivision. The applicant owner CM Sagebrush 1-3082 LLC on 2.61 acres, southwest corner Kyle Canyon Road, Oso Blanco Road, C1 Limited Commercial U, undeveloped zones, proposed C1 Limited Commercial. The Planning Commission recommends approval on all items. Staff recommends approval on items number 88 and 92, denial on 89 through 91. These are in Ward 6 with Mayor Pro Tem Fiore. Our public hearing items, which I declare open. Is the applicant present?
Madam Mayor, I apologize. We do have to take one procedural item here. So because of action that was taken by the City Council at the last City Council meeting, I need to request at this time that item 89, SUP 77628, be tabled, as action cannot be taken on it because it is within the distance separation to a tavern SUP that was approved last meeting. So we're going to table this. As indicated in briefings, the Mayor Pro Tem has put forth some ideas for some policy conversations that may allow that to come back in the future, but I would need to eliminate that and then note that on the site development review where it does indicate a building that is proposed as a tavern, for that matter to go forward as just a retail or commercial building and not as a tavern at this time.
So as we itemize this, go through them one at a time?
Yes.
When we get to that, then Mayor Pro Tem will table that
But
one.
for the discussion purposes, even for the record, if we could vote on tabling that item first so it's outside of the presentation, that would be helpful for just the
Okay.
procedure on the meeting.
So you're aware of that?
Mayor Brian Hardy with the law firm of Marquis Arbot coughing on behalf of the applicant. Yes, we're aware of the tabling issue, and we're looking very much forward to working with Mayor Pro Tem to get this taken care of as soon as possible so that we can get this back on an agenda and we can get this taken care of because we're ready to develop, which is exactly what Councilman Creer was talking about. We loved hearing him. We're ready to go. We're ready to go. We're ready to go, sir.
Okay, great. So Mayor Pro Tem, let's have a motion on that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And yes, and please begin building, just because we're tabling item number 89. So my motion is to table item number 89.
Okay, this motion, please vote and please post. Okay, so now we'll get back to we'll start with 88. Mr. Summerfield, anything before I let the applicant go? Anything else to add?
No, ma'am. Procedurally, I just needed to take care of that, and then we can just have them do their report, and I'll do mine.
So please go ahead. Anything you wish to state on this?
Again, Brian Hardy with the law firm of Marquis Arbot Coughing on behalf of the applicant for the remainder of the items. Mayor Pro Tem, we appreciate your support in this particular matter in the past. As you know, this is a shopping center that we're going to be putting at Kyle Canyon in Osa Blanco. It's got a C-store, it's got fast food, and we're hoping in the future to have some other development there as well. This is a great opportunity, a great benefit for this area. It's something that's needed out there. And we've gotten the support of the Planning Commission, and we hope that we can get the support of the City Council as well as we proceed with this development, and hopefully be able to proceed with the entirety of the development sooner rather than later.
What is the drive-through?
The drive-through is for the drive-through for the fast food or for the...
The drive-through for the fast food, which one? Or don't you know which one yet? That will have a drive-through?
Well, we have some leases that we currently have pending.
Okay. That's all right, just curious.
I can't disclose some of those leases because I guess I can't talk about at least one of them for sure because that issue's been tabled. But we have a lease for that. We're ready to get it developed. We have a lease already sitting on my desk. It's been negotiated, ready to be signed as soon as I can get that tabled back on here and we can get that development going. That's how close we are to getting this developed. So we're ready to go.
Wonderful. So this is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to be heard on 88, 90, or 91 or 92? Close public hearing, and does council, anybody want to say anything here? It's all yours, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Wait, not all yours.
Can you let Ms. Lazovich, she needs to make a statement, and then I need to give my staff report as well.
Well, I just want to make sure before she makes her statement, Robert, Mr. Summerfield, we talked about our trails. Where is that?
So she's going to make her statement about that request that they have. As you know, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, the Ward 6 is developed so fast, this area is not within our master plan for our trails, and so we do not have an adopted trail plan for this area. However, one of the conditions of approval that's currently on here that was placed on it at Planning Commission does require the enhanced trees, so upgrade from the 24-inch box to the 36-inch box. And then the other piece of it, and I think Ms. Lazovich is going to speak to it, is a request for, in consideration to look at that Sky Canyon Trail for the developer to consider that going forward.
So we're going to make a master trail plan now.
We absolutely are. We absolutely are.
We have to have trails, I'm just going to tell you. So this could all get approved with trails or not approved, and I'm sure you want to make trails.
Okay, Ms. Lazovich, go ahead, please.
Jennifer Lazovich, 1980 Festival Plaza Drive, here today on behalf of Sky Canyon. And yes, that was just, I'm actually standing in for Mr. Gronauer, who's gone to another hearing. It was just simply to note on the record the desire to continue a trail system that has largely started by Sky Canyon and just keep it going. So
correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Lazovich. On the property across from them, but you guys have trails on that piece of property?
Yes, that's my understanding.
So maybe we can share with them on their development how to continue it. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
Just so it's a flow.
Right, we have to kind of bridge it together somehow.
Yeah.
Right.
Because so in the Northwest, as our Madam Mayor states all the time, it's the last frontier. So we've got to be careful as we do growth that it is smart growth, and it's smart growth for that rural feel as well. So that's why trails and big trees are so important. We didn't even have to make a comment, but it's good. Okay, so do you agree about that?
We accepted the trees. Obviously, with the Planning Commission, we're amenable to those. As far as the trail, we'd like to be able to see, obviously, with approval, right? I mean, we can go back administratively and take a look because we don't know what that's going to look like right now. We don't know what the plan's going to look like. And so we don't have to come back here to get approval for any site development or site changes that would require for that.
Trust me, our planning knows what I mean by trails.
Absolutely, Madam Mayor, through you, Mayor Pro Tem, it's the difference between what they have and what they would need to do to correspond, we believe, is minimal. And we already, as a part of your conditions of approval, is they have to give us an updated landscape and site plan to reflect the other changes that are in there. So it should not be an issue to do anything beyond an administrative update to the approval, assuming an approval.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Therefore, on agenda item 88.
Therefore, on agenda item 88, we are going to move to approve.
Okay, there's a motion on agenda item 88 to approve, and once we get the little circles, Okay, we can do it orally.
Yeah.
Please, oral?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Unanimous. 89 is tabled, so on number 90?
We did vote. That
We
was our
did.
first vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so 90?
90, I move to approve.
Thank you. There's a motion to approve on Agenda 90. Please vote and please post. And that carries. Oh, we're clicking along. Number 91, please.
I move to approve.
Madam Mayor, so this is the one where I just need to make sure, again, for the record, the clarification, that with this approval, it is understood that the 5,500 square foot liquor establishment tavern, as indicated in the header, is a 5,500 foot commercial or retail building at this time.
Correct. So I move to approve with Mr. Summerfield's words.
Okay. On agenda item 91, please vote and please post. And that motion carries, so the last one's 92.
I
Mayor
move
Pro
to,
Tem?
oh, sorry, I move to approve, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. There's a motion to approve on 92. Please vote and please post. I'm trying. There it is. And that motion carries. Thank you. We look forward to seeing
Thank you, appreciate your time. Mayor Pro Tem, we look forward to working together on getting this done.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're on to 93 and 94, correct? Okay, agenda item 93 and 94. 93 VAR 77642, a request for variance to allow 407 parking spaces where 449 are required, approximately 190 feet south of Meadows Lane. Number 94, SDR 77643, a request for a site development plan review for proposed 865 square foot restaurant with a drive-through approximately 155 feet south of Meadows Lane. The applicant is Dutch Brothers Coffee and the owners Decatur Meadows Shopping Center LLC on 9.32 acres, west side of Decatur Boulevard, C2 General Commercial Zone. For both items, Planning Commission recommends approval and staff recommends denial. These are in Ward 1 with Councilman Knutson, or public hearings which I declare open. Applicant, I assume.
Yes. Paul Deppie, architect for Dutch Bros Coffee. I'd like to thank Councilman Knutson for meeting us and Planning Commission for approving the project. We are in concurrence with all the conditions of staff, otherwise than the variance for the parking, which is why they had initially denied it. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Great, thank you. It's exciting. And Mr. Summerfield.
Madam Mayor, so the proposed restaurant with drive-through is a compatible use of the site at the shopping center and is compatible with the existing surrounding development. However, because this does create a parking imbalance with a reduction in parking necessitating the waiver, we believe that this is self-imposed and therefore staff has recommended denial of the variance and the subsequent site development review.
Okay, thank you. This is a public hearing. Is anyone interested in making comment on 93 or 94? Please come forward. They've had enough. They left. Okay, I'll close public comment. And anyone, council, any questions, comments? Nope. Councilman Knutson.
Thank you very, excuse me, thank you, Mayor, and thank you for being here. I just wanted to make sure it's clear to the rest of the council. The model for Dutch Brothers Coffee is a little different than some of the other coffee shops in town, that it is solely a drive-up. And so many of the folks who expressed some opposition didn't really understand that, and once they understood that, they became very excited. So if you look at the parking lot in that area, I think it's more than accommodating for that type of business. And as I understand, although I have not tried it yet, Dutch Brothers Coffee is amazing, and the customer service is over the top amazing, so I think it's a very good fit for the ward, and I would motion for approval.
Okay, good. What do you mean by it's different? What do you mean by drive-up rather than drive-through?
It's essentially a drive-through coffee stand. There's no interior dining or consumption. There's a walk-up window as well as the drive-up window. And to Councilman Knutson's point, I mean, we do a lot of quick-serve fast food restaurants, and it is, I hadn't heard of it until we started working for these guys, and it's just top-notch as far as the customer service goes. I know you have a couple here in town. But the customer service is, there's no menu boards, it's very person-to-person interaction. There's menu boards, sorry, rather, no drive-through speakers blaring out, somebody's talking through a mic from the inside of the stand. And it's just a very clean, very well-run concept.
So there are other franchises around town of this company?
Yeah, they're all company-owned, and they franchise from within. And they're based out of Grants Pass, Oregon, and then extending down through the Southwest.
So you vouch for their coffee?
I have not tried the coffee.
I will.
However,
Carson City.
Mayor, if you look at that corner, that's where the council approved a housing complex to go on, which
Correct.
is going to have a first floor of retail. So I think this is another step in revitalizing that area. And I'm happy and excited to try Dutch Brothers Coffee.
Excellent.
It is good coffee.
So how many employees will be on a shift in this?
They usually run about 4 to 6 employees to a shift, and again, they have employees that actually staff the drive-through stack, so that, and if they've served the order, they'll run down to the 6th, 7th, 8th car, give them their order without them having to even get to the window. And then if you look at the site plan, I have it here, just to kind of, I don't know if it's coming on, but where we can flip back. They have actually a bypass lane so that, the cars can escape as well, but as they've gotten their order before they get to the window. But,
So it exits onto Meadows or onto Decatur?
onto Decatur. So here's the, it's a double drive-through. The stores here, the kiosk is here, coffee stand is what they call it. They'll run, the runners is what they call them, to come down and they'll serve the cars in the stack and/or come across, serve the cars in this stack. And this painted striped area here allows, if those cars have been served, to exit before they're, while they're.
And do you also, besides coffee, serve breakfast, lunch?
They have no food. It's only drinks. So it's
Interesting.
quite an array. If you go on their website and look at their menu, it's pretty. You can create your own and go there often enough. The employees know who you are and what your order is, and it's pretty amazing.
Wonderful. Being a coffee drinker, I'll be there.
Their chocolate milk's pretty good too.
Thank you.
All right, so
And-
on agenda item then 93, you're moving for approval. We'll take them one at a time.
Thanks. Yes, I move for approval on item number 93.
Okay, there's a motion to approve agenda item 93. Please vote and please post. Great. And then 94?
And Mayor, I move for approval on item number 94.
Great, and there's a motion on 94. So when are you going to open?
We're going into plan check. We already got our civil drawings into plan check, so as soon as we can get our plans approved, 90 days after we get approval, we'll hopefully have a store there.
Hopefully it's
We can get power to it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great
Congratulations.
afternoon.
Motion carries. Okay, so that was 93, 94. 95's been obeyed till February 19th? Yes. Okay, so now we're on to 96. I'd instruct the city clerk to please set the public hearing dates and appeals from the City Planning Commission meetings and dangerous building nuisance letter abatement.
Will do, thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we're into our final citizen participation. Citizen participation, public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of City Council. No subject may be acted upon by the City Council unless that subject is on the agenda and scheduled for action. If you wish to be heard, please come to the podium, give your name for the record, the amount of discussion on any single subject, as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed may be limited. This is your opportunity to address the council, but the council will not respond or engage in dialogue. Is there any member of the public who wishes to speak under this portion of the agenda? We will now move on. Seeing and hearing none, we will move on to number 98, council member recognition. Comments made by individual council members during this portion of the agenda will not be acted upon by the city council unless the subject is on the agenda and scheduled for action. So I know we always have comments to make, so let's go ahead and start with Councilwoman Diaz.
I get to start, okay. All right, it's been a long meeting, and I know we all want to go home, so we'll be short and to the point. coming up this Monday. I know that Councilman Creer was on the news this morning, making sure to advocate for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So don't miss Martin Luther King Jr. Parade this Monday, January 20th at 10 a.m. And it will start off of Hoover and Stewart. So we'll see you all there. I know many of us plan on being there. And
that's
we'll
it?
go on to the next. I'm waiting for the slides to go so I
that's
can
cute.
speak. Just like we heard during ceremonials, the Chinese Heritage Year of the Rat Reception is happening here Friday, January 24th from 5 to 7 at the historic 5th Street School, 401 South 4th Street, and admission is free. So please, take advantage of this opportunity to celebrate the new year once more and the Year of the Rat. In coordination with the festivities for Chinese New Year's, it extends into Saturday, January 25th with the Las Vegas Spring Festival Parade. And I'm so happy that they decided to give some love to 18B. The parade route will be off of Utah and Main Street, and it will go Maine to California. There will be a parade after party in the Arts District from 9:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. So make sure you don't miss this. And this is all with the Golden Knights sponsorship. Go Knights. Can't wait. On a more serious note, we're inviting everyone to a community meeting for development along Maryland Parkway. This is the time to really voice what you would want to see done with that transit corridor. And they're going to have this meeting to take all community input so that as they're going through the development planning process, they can take into account your issues, your concerns, and what you think is needed when we do this project. So when are we having the discussion? It's on January 27th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Center on 401 South Maryland Parkway. And this is in coordination with the RTC and Clark County. And that is all for me, Madam Mayor.
Very much. And Councilman Knutson, please.
Thank you very much, Mayor. January is National Mentoring Month. If you've had a mentor in your life, now is a great time to recognize them for helping you become the person that you are today. Madam Mayor, you have been a mentor for me for many years, so thank you for taking the time to help me become a positive person in this community.
I'd love to do.
If you have the capacity to mentor yourself, there are many ways to do so, from the after-school all-stars, communities in schools, boys and girls clubs, big brothers and big sisters, just to name a few. Mentoring is one of the most important things we can do as adults. This Thursday, the 16th, is January's Brews with Brian. Very, very popular. 5:30 to 7 p.m. at Aces and L's on Tenaya. It's a great opportunity for me to meet the neighbors, and everybody who comes is always super welcoming and have ideas and thoughts about how this community can be better. So I'm grateful for everyone who's shown up. And there is always a crowd, so I'm excited about this coming up Thursday. And then on Tuesday, January 28th at 10 a.m., we'll be celebrating the unveiling of Bill Breyer's new fitness court. This is part of the global movement to shape healthy outdoor infrastructure and healthy lifestyles in cities, and I hope to see a lot of our community out there with me. Thank you, Mayor.
Wonderful. And for those of you who are new to town, Bill Breer was mayor, and he followed in, I believe, Orrin Gregson. He's left some wonderful legacy, and so this is exciting that his park's being fixed among the others. So you're fixing or have fixed in your ward, so great. I'm skipping you because you're Mayor Pro Tem, and we're going down to the far end with Councilwoman Seaman.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Just a little.
Okay, so we're going to start with our next slide. I want everyone to know about the utility tax sewer rebate program, and there are several locations that you can go apply for this rebate. One is Centennial Hills Active Adult Center. You can go to Deerfeld Senior Center, DULA, Howard Leeburn Senior Center, Doolittle Senior Center, and the East Las Vegas Community Center, and it began January 6th and ends March 14th. So if you need to get a hold of us in our office, just please give us a call. And next want to reach out to folks about our Small Business Sundays. It's become very, very popular. So if you have a business in Ward 2, we would be happy to come out and just film your small business and put you on our Small Business Sundays social media channels. So again, you can just contact our office at 702-229-2420 or email us at ward2@lasvegasnevada.gov. Next, we have some animals up for adoption. We have Nala. She's a spayed female, 9 months old and 5.4 pounds. Next, we have Tito. He's adorable, male, 9 years old, 8 pounds.
So cute.
And Shakira, spayed female, 4 years, 54.4 pounds.
Cute.
And then we have Sunset, beautiful cat, 2 years old, 7.1 pounds. It's a female. So if anyone wants to adopt any of these lovely pets, you can just call the Animal Foundation. Next slide, please. At 702-955-5901, or you can email them at adoptions@animalfoundation.com. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And what a nice birthday present you present by coming back for Councilman Anthony.
I flew in. Thank you, Madam Mayor. As we are approaching the end of January, we're still in the middle of it. We're going to hit Black History Month, and the month of February, as you know, is designated as Black History Month. And I just want to take a moment to recognize our Parks and Rec Department for all of their work that they do in serving on our Las Vegas Black History Committee. They do outstanding work. You can always visit their website, lasvegasnevada.gov/Ward5, and find out everything that's going on. We start Peace Week 2020, Sunday, January the 19th. Join us at the West Las Vegas Library Theater on Sunday the 19th from 3 to 5 p.m. as we honor the life, legacy, and contributions of my Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity brother and my Sigma Pi Phi Archon, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In the spirit of Dr. King, we will hear from leaders who are making positive changes in their community. This inspiring event will feature performances of dance, spoken word, and more, to include a performance by the Trinity Conservatory of Performing Arts. And during this event, community service awards will be presented to community members and groups who have made a huge impact to improve the lives of residents. For more information, please call 702-229-6125. I'm going to skip the Martin Luther King Parade. Thank you, Councilman Diaz, for bringing that to the forefront. Thursday, the 23rd of January, it's the first Ward 5 Community Conversation of 2020. It will take place at 6 to 7:30 p.m. at Tenaya Creek Brewery, located at 835 West Bonanza Road. We look forward to kicking off the year to meet with residents and businesses, and come on out and join the conversation to discuss matters that are always important to you. For more information, call 702-229-5443. We have the grand opening of the Dula Community Center Thursday, January the 23rd. Join me on the 23rd at 2 p.m. to celebrate the newly combined community center and gymnasium located at 451 East Bonanza Road. The center has undergone major renovations, and we are celebrating the grand opening. Programming will include activities and events for all ages and abilities. For information, contact 702-229-6307. And you can always find us on social media at Twitter at Cedric Creer, Instagram, Councilman Creer, Facebook, Councilman Cedric Creer. Thank you.
Thank you, and please make sure from here on out that all the PR that goes out, including anything you send, says Dula Community Complex.
Yes.
Because that said the wrong name. They
Yes.
didn't know.
Yes.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem, go, please.
Thank you. I did not know that January was Mentor Month, so thank you, Councilman Knutson, for saying that. On that note, I will tell you, people have asked me what happened to me. And I said, Madam Mayor Goodman happened to me. So it's working whenever you're doing according to the outsiders.
Nice.
So thank you for being such a great mentor to me for the last couple of years. So tomorrow night, we have our Golden Knights game, Thursday the 16th. Game starts at 4:30, so get your gear on. Then we have a very, very, very special park opening. and it's going to be Jeremy Mitchell Huber Field. It's the grand opening. It's January 26th, 10 a.m. This is our lacrosse fields, and we are going to be giving a proclamation to him and his family to make January 26th at 10 a.m. His day. Jeremy left us at age 19. He was in college in East with like pneumonia type of thing just last year. So this will be the one-year anniversary, and we got it done thanks to Greg Weitzel and his whole team. So please join me for this very, very special park opening on January 26th. And then we have the first of two. Touches me and everyone else. Our mayor, myself, and all city council is welcome to join us. Mayor and I will be at the Officer Allen Beck Park for the grand opening and unveiling of the park on Wednesday, January 31st, 2020 at 10 a.m. Officer Allen Beck and his partner, Officer Igor Saldor, was having lunch at Cici's Pizza in 2014, and they were gunned down. And they live in our ward out there in the Northwest, and so we are building two parks, and Officer Allen Beck's Park is the first park to come. And Madam Mayor and I work diligently, and we will be revealing Officer Allen Beck's life-size bronze statue on January 31st, 2020 at 10 a.m. So please join us, our police officers, for this groundbreaking, and Mrs. Beck and Allen Beck's kids, too. Then we have some good news. We located a baby, Willie Thomas, which was only 11 months old. The baby was last seen with the custodial mother and was missing, but now they have found the baby. So good job, you guys. Now we are going to be looking for Tatiana Gutierrez. She's only 16 years old. She's adorable. She's only 4'10", 91 pounds, hazel eyes, black hair. She's Hispanic. She was last seen in the area in Reno, Nevada, so it's unknown where she is right now, and it's unknown of what she was wearing last. So please, if you have any information on Tatiana, please call Reno Police at area code 775-334-2121 or our Nevada Child Seekers here at 702-458-7009. Then we have another missing youth, Soraya Garcia. She's 17. She's 5 feet, 100 pounds, blue eyes, blonde hair. She's a Caucasian, and she was last seen in the area of Sparks, Nevada. So please, if you see Soraya, please call Sparks Police Department, which is 775 area code 353-2231, or our Nevada Child Seekers at 702-458-7009. Then we have our Corridor of Hope, Homeless Success Stories. Tracy Verdemarano. Tracy has proved herself to be an extraordinary person. She states she became homeless while struggling to maintain employment while managing her disabilities with her health. She vividly remembers how she ended up at the Courtyard her very first night of homelessness. While recalling that terrifying night on June 28, 2019, Tracy's voice reflected the tears that streamed from her eyes. She carried on to state she had called the mainstream number for homeless resources at star 211 and was provided information to the local shelters. Unfortunately, the shelters had reached their capacity. Tracy laughs, remembering the 211 operator stating, "There's always the Courtyard." Today, Tracy states the Courtyard was her true, genuine blessing. Tracy tells us the first service she received was a place to rest and sleep. She states she felt safe providing what she describes as a space. Tracy was inspired to capture her experience with homelessness in her novel published through Amazon titled Clarity, Memoirs from the Streets of Vegas, under the name of T-Ray. Tracy states the greatest service she received was being placed in a flexible housing program in August of 2019. She is proud to say that the program gave her the tools and resources, along with positive support, to feel and regain her control over her life and hopes for her future. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Beautiful, I like that. I love to hear success stories, wonderful. Well, I think between, or among all of you, you've covered everything. I was going to do the Martin Luther King, also Chinese New Year, but that's been so capably done. And I do want to thank Gerard Galland of the Vegas Golden Knights. He, for whatever reason, and we're not privy to that, but thank you for bringing us that wonderful winning team for the time that you were employed by the Vegas Golden Knights. And I understand we have a San Jose Sharks coach coming in, Peter DeBoer. So we wish you well and wish you, Mr. Gallant, Coach Gallant, the best as you go forward with the next part of your life. And for us, all of us, we are all fans of the great Vegas Golden Knights. So I want to thank our staff, our wonderful staff here, and for just all that you do to keep us informed. And I want to thank Tech, because you are always forever there. And very specifically, I want to thank our Marshal Detail, who keeps us safe and ever watching all of us. Our clerk's office, who's done an outstanding job keeping us on point, except when the computer doesn't work, which isn't your fault. And anyway, wish you all, thank you very much for everything that you do. I think it's been a productive day. I'm sure some people aren't thrilled to death with some of the decisions, but you can't win them all. So the main thing is thank you very much for everything that you've done, and you have to have broad shoulders to move forward and take care of that city. This city is what we're about, and we thank you very much. And for our team of executives and our city manager, thank you very much. It is challenging every day, and every meeting always has something new. But I was told we were going to be here till 7 or 7:30, and it's 4:15. So you're welcome for getting you out, so you can have a nice time, whatever you're doing this evening, and hopefully the city manager will let you go at 5 instead of 5:30. I am letting my staff go at 5. So thank you all, and marshals, and Mr. Hacker, who has disappeared in smoke, thank you for taking this on. Appreciate it. We're adjourned till the 5th of February, Wednesday the 5th at 9.